we already got him. We already got the man in the building.
Oh my gosh. Are we live?
Yeah, yes sir. Yes sir. We are here.
Oh, that's very scary.
Oh, no. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk a lot of dirt backstage before we went live.
Oh, see, I tell you what, we'll save that. We'll save that. We'll save that. We don't want to get because we got to know what we can cut. We got to know what we can cut out.
I just watched your post tonight, where you're talking about black indie creators and so forth.
Oh,
yeah. and I felt like you've just been, once again you've been hacking into my email and reading my email, because I just said this. I just said, look, a lot of times, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, especially writers, especially writers that I admire and people that make way more money than I do. Okay, but I feel like every time someone gets their hands on the Black Panther, they're like, now is my chance to make my statement, and it's very important and it's so serious, and it's like we forget sometimes that we have to entertain. We forget to entertain. We're trying to make a statement. We're trying to make a point, and I really feel like the best way to make a point is to put it in the bloodstream with what did mom do? She mixed the medicine into the ice cream or something. It's
right.
If anybody remembers my Black Panther, they would remember the fact that it was funny. How dare I be? In fact, when I told Marvel, oh, by the way, it's going to be funny, they went into shock. There was like a funny Black Panther. I said, no, I didn't say Black Panther would be funny. I said the comic book would be funny. There'll be humor in the comic book. The Black Panther himself, not very funny guy. Okay,
no.
but there was a lot of humor in the series. And after that, it's like, every series that's come after that has been so serious, and we're making our statement and we're taking our stand, and Black Power, and I'm all for that. I'm all for the Black Power stuff, but we are selling in an environment. We really need to be able to make these products sustainable if we want to see more of them. Make them sustainable within the environment that we have access to. I'm sorry, I'm hijacking your show here.
No. You're spitting. So look,
when we were starting,
I'm just nodding my head.
when we were starting Milestone Media, and we were having these conversations with Paul Levitz. Dennis Cameron was talking to Paul. I was talking to Paul. Separately from Dennis, the conversations with Paul. It wasn't about DC wanting to do something for Black folk or make some kind of, it was a business opportunity. The discussion was about the newsstand was dying or already dead, and everybody was throwing everything into Diamond, okay? And Diamond was becoming a real bottleneck. So the question was, how do we expand our distribution beyond the Diamond bottleneck? So what we wanted to do, beyond the moral imperative of trying to do a Black-owned company and Black-owned heroes and that kind of thing, we wanted to get Milestone into the distribution channels with Double XL and Vibe and Source Magazine and Ebony Jet. We wanted to get into that stream, and somehow, and I don't know why, and again, not throwing shade at anybody, but because most of these people don't work at DC anymore, so we can talk about them.
Hey, look, just unload the clip on them, man. Just go ahead and let them off.
I don't know exactly what happened, but it, and again, I don't want to speak for Dwayne, obviously. But I know this frustrated Dwayne immensely, that the marketing department just seemed so inflexible in terms of trying to open this new artery to get blood flow. And it would be good for DC. It wouldn't be just good for Black people. It's good for DC. Let's sell more comic books. There's so much money to be made in the Black and Latino communities. Why is there no Spanish language Miles Morales comic being distributed in the United States? I mean, you know how much money is out there?
Well, no, you've literally just like I'm not gonna stop you unless you're telling lies and you're doing nothing but telling the truth. So I mean, no, keep cooking. I want.
But I
you to
was
keep
just
cooking.
watching you today, and the point you were trying to make is like we all want the same thing, but and you had to lean into your microphone,
I wanted them to hear me.
yes. But we have to make this stuff accessible to everybody, and it has to be fun for everybody.
Yes.
So I liked what they did. The most recent thing that they did with the history of the DC universe, the Dakota incident. And certainly your support was really important, and other bloggers out there were really important. Shout out to Brandon for Comics Are Dope, who I have literally fallen asleep on twice now, because I was supposed to be on his show. I'm an old man. Okay.
Look.
And I'm sitting here waiting. And Brandon likes to record at 2 in the morning or whatever. He's got this late schedule. So I'm sitting here like this. I'm waiting for the,
Right. Hey, look. See, you know what? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about me. Like I'm a night owl, kind of like how he is. But I do recognize I am a rare breed. So like what gets me is when people are like, hey man, I can only do interviews between 11 a.m. and 2 o'clock. And I'm like, man, so what you're saying is I have to go to bed at 10. You say because I don't wake up until 11 or noon. So
I so admire you. I'm up at 4 or 5 because I like to write in the morning when it's quiet and the dogs aren't barking and I have my brain starts to just shift into neutral around noon. So it's over by noon,
that's fair.
But I like to do all that. But anyway, I really I really salute you, sir. I really enjoyed that post today, and I'm sorry that I just jumped into whatever in the middle of whatever you're doing right now.
I wasn't talking about shit. I wasn't talking about anything important, so no. You honestly, you were right on time because I really all I was doing is basically just telling people hey, this is what's about to happen, and then what's about to happen happens. So I was like, you know what, you just made it easy. So,
all right, so let's jump into another while I got you on the line here because you're a very interesting fella, and this is
I try.
And this is the stuff that I really wanted to talk to you without people watching.
Oh, you know what? You feel free to cook my shit. Feel free to cook my shit.
So those of you who are okay, I want everybody just to plug their ears right now and don't listen to us while we banter back and forth. But I think in addition to being important to support these literary works that speak to Black people or minorities or LGBTQ plus. I also think it's important to support Black creators, even if they're not doing Black characters. Okay, because I did this Superman book, a year and a half ago.
Superman Lost.
That was nominated for an Eisner, and the whole point of my doing that book, Ernie, was I wanted people to read that book and to come away from it going, kind of shrug emoji, like, so what? It's Superman. And I went, that's exactly my point, that a Black person can write Superman as well as any other white person, that there's no reason that we have to be kind of have this sort of, creative apartheid. Now I realize that there are segments of the readership that really don't really care much about Superman. And who cares? Why should I read Superman? Or why should I support this Superman book just because a Black guy writes? Well, it's the first Superman series assigned to a Black writer in 85 years. That's kind of a milestone. That's kind of an interesting, point of reference there. But it's we want to send messages to the publishers that that the talent, whether it's a female talent or LGBTQ plus talent, that if they know their world, there's no reason why a woman can't write a male character or vice versa or whatever it is. You don't have to compartmentalize the talent. So I think it's important to kind of look at it that way. We're also going to talk a little bit about Vampirella. And what's interesting about Vampirella is that Vampirella is kind of this outlier because there are people who like manga and there's people who like superheroes and people who like whatever they like. Blah, 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 blah. Now who are these people who like Vampirella? They're a whole different like segment, right?
They're an interesting group of people, and I love them for being the group of people that like. And I want people to understand.
Are you throwing shade on Vampirella readers?
No. Because I want people to know that I understand. Okay. I understand. Okay, I'm gonna tell myself. So when I was a little kid and I would go into comic shops, and yeah, I want people to understand that like Vampirella's been around for a long time.
Long time.
Like when I was a kid walking into comic shops, and just for reference, I am 43 years old. So yes, when I was a child, yes, Vampirella was a thing.
Yes.
My mother would not let me walk out the shop.
Yep.
With a Vampirella book because I
first of all, it was a magazine. It was a magazine. And it had like a half-naked white girl on the cover.
Yes,
right.
It's literally just like half-naked lady with like some dental floss covering her breast and like all like bent and it's what I call it's what I call the Psylocke. It's the Psylocke. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all remember those 90s books where Psylocke, this is like when she's Asian now, right. And like she would always be on the cover, like she'd be like this, and you could see both. You could see both breasts, but you could also see both ass cheeks at the same time. It was weird how that worked. But I mean, like, and I love those, and I don't want anyone to think I'm making fun. I love those covers just like everybody else. I'm not trying to moralize. I'm just saying this is why I was never allowed to walk out with a Vampirella book. Like I was a good and grown man when I read my first Vampirella comic.
All right, now see, I'm going to confess now, okay? Because I'm an ordained, former pastor. So I call myself a recovering pastor because I'm getting over it slowly. God is leading me out of this going, it's all right, you'll be fine, it's okay. Because church folk just make you crazy. Anyway, a long time ago on a planet far, far away, if I wanted to buy, they used to have before the internet, you had to buy a magazine. If you want to see a naked lady, you had to buy a magazine, okay? So you go and unless you're like a player like Ernie. Ernie just saw a naked lady because there's naked ladies.
Look, I'm trying to figure out what y'all doing. I'm trying to figure out why y'all ain't seen it.
But you go down there, you go down to the store and you want to buy like a copy of. There once was a magazine called Oui, OUI, Oui. It was like a French.
Yes.
And it wasn't anything like the filth we have on the internet now. It's like you got to see some bare breasts, maybe a butt cheek here and there. And that was big stuff back in the 70s, okay, or the 80s, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted to buy that magazine, I would get that magazine. Then I would buy a copy of Time or Newsweek and put Time or Newsweek on top. I would spend the extra $3 for the Time or Newsweek. So when I walked up to the register, the people standing in line would not see that I had you nasty boy, you have a copy of We there. And with Vampirella, so you buy Vampirella, maybe you want to go and get a copy of The Flash, or something, and, right. Saga, and put the Brian K. Vaughan comic on over top, and walk.
I want to see people with TV heads having sex. Don't judge me.
Oh, he's just a brilliant writer, though. So I love him. This guy is just, is just off the chain. But the reason I bring up Vampirella, first of all, we're doing a new volume. That wasn't my idea. That was Dynamite's idea. We are working our way up to our legacy issue number 700. So we're going to have, one of these, yet another reason for you to spend money on a, Lollapalooza, an oversized comic with all these extras and, shenanigans going on. Okay, so we're working up the shenanigans, working our way to the shenanigans. So Dynamite decided that we're going to do a new volume 8. So number 1 will ship in April. So I think FOC is today or yesterday or last week.
I think we might be right on it. I think we might be right ahead of it. Maybe. While you talk, I'm gonna double check it.
Okay, so it's
Just
imminent.
for
The
clarity.
FOC is imminent, you know.
Yes.
Um, and the neat thing about the number one is that this particular number one, the way it's been structured and written, is that you have to know absolutely nothing about this character, and it's we start completely like the old Jetsons TV show, where they had the intro with a little jingle and they go, meet George Jetson, Jane, his wife, their boy Elroy, and each character would kind of come on stage and do a little bit of business that would tell the kids who the characters were and how they functioned in the story. So it's like, we fear not about Vampirella. We are going to take you by the hand and lead you through. This is who she is. This is what her world is. This is how it all works. But the point I'd like to make about that, and linking it to the Superman thing, is that Nick Barucci, the publisher of Dynamite, he's the one who kind of stalked me for just about a year to convince me to write this character. I have no idea why, but he wanted me to write the character. And until I wrote the character, I don't think that there had ever been a black character in the book. And Vampirella series
Yeah, I think you're correct.
Is kind of anchored by two very important black characters. One is her therapist, who we hope will be played by Sam Jackson, because this guy is hilarious. The character, I think, and that's me being immodest, but the character, her therapist, is just, he's a rowdy old black man who doesn't believe in vampires, and he just thinks she's crazy. So he's saying these incredibly obscene things and, just yelling at her and calling her crazy. And then her frenemy, her name is Victory.
Yes.
Victory is, she's not a vampire, but she kind of wears a suit similar to Vampirella. They were involved romantically, and as happens in the course of things, one always wants it to be more than it could possibly be. So Vampirella unceremoniously dumped her. And then Vampirella's meddlesome mom gave her superpowers, and now she's kind of on again, off again foil for Vampirella. But there's people of color in there, and there's a lot of theology. People going, well, how can you write Vampirella? It's like, well, yeah, you should probably read it or at least sample it. There's a sample on my website. We'll give you the link to that where you can go and look at it for free. And it's a book with much like the Black Panther, that yes, it has the horror and the fangs and she bites people and there's all that kind of stuff going on, but it's also very funny. There's very poignant, and if I'm doing my job right, and I hope it is, you folks will tell me, but if I'm doing my job right, you will have these moments of high adventure that all of a sudden dives into these tragic moments, and then has these very funny moments, and you'll have these ups and downs throughout the thing there. And it's basically about it's about a woman trying to make it on her own in the big city. She just happens to be a vampire from outer space. And and she's stalked by this homicidal former Apollo astronaut and this retired demon living in Beverly Hills, and her frenemy and her evil twin Draculina, and her 400-year-old meddlesome mother, who's a sorceress, and so forth. And she gets dragged back and forth to planet Draculon from time to time. So there's a lot going on there. And as far as the outfit, well, that's that's a little out there. Okay, that's even worse. Okay, but as far as the outfit goes, I was going to say I've seen far more risque stuff on rap videos these days. I see that there's a lot of flesh out there. I don't think and her outfit was designed by Trina Robbins, and
she was a whole icon.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. But I'm just like, oh, there you go. That's a little easier on the eyes there.
Yeah.
But I just for those who have never given her a shot, you can get the sample on my website. It's just priest.mx /VAMPI, Vampy.
And it's linked down below.
Oh, good.
It is. If you guys go look in the description of this video, it is linked down below. Also, yes, you are correct. FOC is today. So what I'm gonna tell y'all to do: call your shop, because you can do this. You don't have to walk in. You can call your shop. Also, if your shop links with League of Comic Geeks, you can do it that way as well. But you may still want to call your LCS just in case, because some shops don't use the same software the League of Comic Geeks does, so they would have to like know that you've added it so they can, either just call them. Just call them.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. But that way, you get to take a peek at it, without having to have your mother tell you put that back. You
Like,
get to see
you
what
catch
we're
the
doing.
newspaper. You're gonna get hit with the
Right.
newspaper.
Right. But yeah, it's like this is you know I am not I think I've stirred up a bunch of controversy here and there where people think, well, Priest doesn't want to write black characters, which is not true. I was having an objection and with the major publishers. This was years ago. Up until like 2017, my objection was being limited to only writing black characters.
Yes.
And I said, well, when did that happen? Because once upon a time, I was a guy who was writing Spider-Man, and I rebooted Green Lantern a long time ago, in this book called Emerald Dawn, where DC asked me to just completely, fix Green Lantern, and so forth. And then I wrote Black Panther, and all of a sudden, like I just couldn't get arrested unless it was going to be Black Lightning or Black Goliath or some other adjective there. And that just struck me as strange because the Black Panther comic book that I was writing wasn't really about Black Panther. It was about the white guy.
I think people forgot about that.
It was about this guy named Everett Ross, who was this State Department guy, this clueless State Department guy, who it was about his cultural awakening. It was about him. It's like one day I learned this concept, Ernie, that kind of blew my mind. Was that I realized that there are some black people who have some white people who have no black friends, and I found that to be like, really, seriously, and I had to think about it. Like, you mean you have not even one black acquaintance, not at work, not at school, not somebody that you have lunch with, or and so I said, okay, well, let me write a character like that, a character who has all he knows about us is what he saw on television. And this clueless boob, has to go and pick up the king of Wakanda from the airport, for example. And he goes to pick up this guy. He figures like it's just this one guy. It's just this guy, this Wakandan guy. I'm going to pick him up from the airport, take him over to the Waldorf. We'll order up some ribs, and he'll be fine. And he shows up at the airport in this two-seater Mazda Miata to pick up the king of Wakanda. And of course, T'Challa shows up, and he's got this whole retinue. He's got all these people. He's got the Doras. He's got all, And then T'Challa doesn't want to insult his host, so they all pile into the Miata, and it's a convertible Miata, and they're driving down the street with all these people in the Miata. But that's the point. Is like I felt like that at the time, and again, most of these people don't work at these places anymore. But I felt like at the time that people were kind of looking at me in the wrong light, and they were kind of diminishing my work. And kind of limiting, you're missing the whole point of that series. The whole point of that series was to enlighten people and to broaden these concepts and to expand the world of Wakanda, this brilliant world that was mostly built by this white man named Don McGregor. I decided not to change it. So why reinvent the wheel? Don's already done all the work. Let me just embellish it and kind of modernize it. But let's open up these, demystify this whole world, and let's create this ride along character that mainstream, fans of all ethnicities can identify with, can lead you through, the ins and outs of the story and so forth, and I thought that we did a reasonably good job with that, and then for me to just be like sidelined somewhere and only limited to never given a shot at any of the mainstream characters. I thought that was kind of wrong. So every 18 months or so, I would have this conversation with either Marvel or DC, and they would offer me, Black Peanut Butter Man or whatever, and I would politely say, well, no thanks, and I'd go, well, what about the Atom? Like, let me do an Adams. Oh no, we don't, maybe not the Atom. Okay, and then we'll see you again in 18 months, and that went on for quite a while until they DC. Called me up. Actually, Marie Javins, who now runs DC, called me up and asked me about Deathstroke. And my first question was, "Is he black?" And she said no, because I knew they had been doing all these, this race swapping, And I thought about it. I said, "Okay, I'm listening," And we had a long conversation about Deathstroke, and then I talked to Jeff Johns for quite a while about Deathstroke, and Jeff Johns and I came up with our concept of this, this book being not about the world's greatest assassin. Deathstroke, really, my Deathstroke book was not, and I think it's a mistake to make it about the world's greatest. Who cares? My Deathstroke book was about the world's worst dad. About this deeply dysfunctional person, this man who loves and wants to be loved, but is capable of neither. And that was something that came out of a discussion that I had with Jeff. And I think Jeff is, regardless of the larger picture and the political blah 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 and the office politics, I think the guy's just like one hell of a writer, and he and I have always had a very cordial, very decent relationship. And he got like zero credit for my run on Deathstroke, but that was really largely coming out of a conversation with him.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, too, I thought that it was, I'll add a little addendum to what I thought your Deathstroke was about. I think, I definitely agree. It was more about like a guy who was like the world's worst dad, but also like a guy who I felt like, and you were actually the only person I think who has actually used this character at all on any meaningful level, it was also kind of almost just as much about like Tanya Spears in a lot of cases. Like, for those who don't know, Tanya Spears is one of the she's the Black Power girl. Like she is like you ever like look up DC, like black DC superheroes? You ever see the one girl with like the afro puffs and the blue jacket? Yep. That is Tanya Spears. She is a legacy character in the Power Girl line, and like honestly did not get used very often at all, but like you were like the one person I think that actually did anything with her.
I loved her. I begged DC, begged them to let me do like a standalone series with Tanya, or better yet, team her back up with Karen, because we put Karen in limbo. We was going to get her out of limbo, and then we had this whole plot line where Tanya has rescued Karen, but now at the expense of her own identity, because Karen's back now. Now Karen's Power Girl,
right?
And Tanya's like, well, now what do I do? And being an emancipated minor and all the challenges that came on, But there was this great issue. This is Deathstroke number 20. Even if you hate me, go find Deathstroke number 20. Okay, Deathstroke number 20 is an issue that's written almost entirely in the New King James. Okay, because it's an issue where Deathstroke has had a near-death experience. He has renounced evil, and now he's going to put together his own Teen Titans because, of course, he can do it better. So he's going to put together his own Teen Titans. So he goes to recruit Tanya. Now, the last time Tanya saw him, he killed her dog. Okay, and I want to underscore that, like, I've had Deathstroke kill off any number of people, and over the years at DC, he's killed off dozens, if not hundreds of people, okay? And nobody really blinked an eye. We killed one dog, Ernie. We never got more hate mail than when we killed Deathstroke killed Tanya's dog, right?
It was the John Wick. It was the John Wick effect. You John Wicked the dog, so therefore the pitchforks. I mean, look, I get it because I love dogs too, but it's just like it's fictitious dog, y'all.
So he shows up in Tanya's house with a puppy to replace the dog, and he's trying to talk her into joining his Titans. Now Tanya is a born again Christian, so he shows up there and he goes, "Okay, stop it right there. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." And he tells her like, well, you have to forgive me now. That's the rule. And she goes, the rules? And he starts quoting Jesus, like, well, whatsoever you do not forgive on earth, neither will my Father in heaven forgive. So it's like, when somebody apologizes to a Christian, the Christian literally, Ernie, must forgive you, or he or she is not a Christian,
Right.
And he goes, and Deathstroke goes, see, that's what makes you born again so much fun, you know.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
he's just taking advantage of her, but she was so friggin' smart, and I tried to write her as this incredible genius, and it gave her all this really interesting dialogue that took me hours and days to research. And I called Paul Levitz, and I just lavished a lot of praise on Paul, and Paul was like, I don't take any credit for it. But Paul, shut up, Paul. This is Paul created the character, and I just thought she's a brilliant character. She's so vulnerable. I've met kids like this who are just geniuses, Ernie, but they are emotionally complex, or if not emotionally fragile.
Yes.
And now add on top of that, she has, the power to topple entire cities. What are you going to do with that? And she was just so much fun. I love Tanya. So I have such a love affair with Tanya.
Well, and something I kind of want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, because I think this is something that gets lost in the conversation, as you mentioned. And this was kind of, I think when all the DC So White stuff started, I think what got lost in the conversation for a lot of folks, I think folks focused on the black character of it all and not enough the black creative of it all.
Yep.
Because that was also one of the things that I was trying to point out to people, is that when they were announcing, and I want to be clear, it was 13 titles that were announced in the Act 1 of DC DC Next Level.
Where's mine? I didn't see my name. Did you skip over my name?
No. Honestly, I was surprised. I was actually surprised that I was like, wait a minute. I was like, y'all didn't. I was like, wait, y'all didn't call Chris. Y'all didn't call my man's Priest in here.
All of those people that worked on Superman Lost, none of them are working there at the moment.
That is okay. So, and that kind of buttresses my point that I thought it was really weird that there was only by my count of the creative teams that have been announced thus far, there was only one creative team that had a black person on it. That was Zatanna, which is Jamal Campbell, who's doing both writing and art, and he's. Yeah. And I want to make something clear. I wholesale support his Zatanna run. And that was actually kind of one of the things I kept telling people, is that, you can't just support black people when they're writing a black character. You got to support them at all times when they're writing any character.
Or vampires.
Or vampires. I mean, because vampires, because vampires are people too. I think that, I don't think at this point we should be minimizing people from Draculon. I think that's a dangerous avenue for us to draw a line at the vampires from Draculon. But I think that I think people sometimes, and this is also, I think, a bigger problem. I think sometimes people don't know. Sometimes the way books are advertised, or sometimes for lack thereof advertising.
They would have no idea who the creators are. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times they wouldn't know.
Actually, to me, I think that's how it should be, to be honest with you.
Well, I blame the 90s for that. Because I feel like around the time that Image Comics was blowing up, that was the time, I think, when people really started paying, I think, the most attention to who actually made, or who was the person that was writing the comic you like, who was the person that was drawing. I think if you were a fan, you knew, but it was that time where I feel like everybody was paying a lot more attention to that.
Yep.
Oh, that's a Todd McFarlane, that's a Jim Lee, this is a Rob Liefeld, so on and so forth, yada yada yada. Here's Eric Larson. It's the creators started becoming the rock stars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and as they say in the streets, they became bigger than the program, I
Yeah.
guess,
Well, yeah. Well, once upon
so
a
to
time,
speak.
but once upon a time, yeah. But see, but once upon a time, we sold Captain America, we sold Spider Man,
Right,
but now we sell Todd McFarlane, and we
right.
sell Ed Brubaker, right? You
Yes.
know, I mean that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I just want to tell you, you know, every time I hear you, you know, but every time I hear the you know, the hashtag, I kind of wince a little bit because these people are
Mhm,
my friends, you
mhm,
know, and you know, I know these people. I have lunch with these people. I have these people on speed dial, you know,
mhm,
and if I thought that there was some kind of, you know, shenanigans or some agenda
mhm,
going on up there, I'd be the first to
mhm,
tell you. I think,
mhm,
you know, speaking specifically for myself, my approach to superheroes is not everybody's cup of tea.
mhm.
Way I see it, there's two basic approach. I'm going to simplify it like this: the two basic approaches, and this is just terrifically simplified. One is the CW shows like Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other is Netflix Daredevil. And I tend to be more of a Netflix Daredevil, you know, Dark Knight Returns kind of guy. I'm a Denny O'Neil, Frank
Mhm,
Millery kind of guy. Now, I'm not as dark as those guys, and I'm not as talented, frankly, as those guys, but I like to ground my superheroes in reality. My Superman Lost book is a reality based what if this happened to Superman, and what are the rational limits of Superman's power and so forth, and
mhm,
an exploration of his humanity. That to me, what makes him Superman is not his powers, it's his strength of character. It's that if he was robbed of his powers, he would still try to help any way he can. He would still sacrifice his own life to save somebody else. That's what makes him Superman. You know,
mhm,
not the cape or the powers, but
mhm.
although we have alien
I mean, they
capes and
help. They
yeah,
help, but I
yeah,
mean, he is still Superman regardless.
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the point, you know, that I was trying to make there. So
Yeah.
just speaking for me, you know, if I am not considered for, you know, the new wave of whatever their current initiative is, I don't take it personally because
Mhm,
they have a creative direction they want to go in. If they thought I fit that direction, I would have got that call. I have gotten that call. I have had books that were you know, that were on the rails, you know, greenlit,
mhm,
ready to go, that I walked away from because
mhm,
I had a problem with something or another or whatever. So just speaking only for myself, if I'm not in that particular wave or in that particular party, you know, I don't attribute it necessarily to the color of my skin so much as the
mhm,
fact that, you know, I like to write closer to Christopher Nolan, you know, stuff, you know,
mhm.
and I really want to get into, like, you know, what would having super speed, if I was writing the Flash, how would that really affect this person emotionally, mentally, spiritually? You know, let's dive into Wally West or whoever the Flash is this week. You know, dive into his, you know, how does he see God if you can move that fast? You're looking at the world
Right.
from a completely different perspective. Now, beyond that, I can't speak to like how these decisions are made, but I can tell you both at least the two major publishing companies and probably some of the smaller ones, there is the algorithm, Ernie,
Mhm. Oh, yes. I'm
where
a
they
victim of it.
where they take this name, they take that name, and they put the two sides of the cookie together and whatever, and they put all this stuff so that so they'll have the creative side where the creative stuff is great and everybody at the office gets excited about it and it goes up the chain with all the creatives and they go, we would love to do this, we like this proposal, and then
Mhm.
they bundle it up and they send it to marketing. Now, once upon a time, back in the Cro-Magnon days when I was behind the desk, all you needed for a green light was, you know, to catch Dick Giordano after lunch, because Dick Giordano liked to have a Rob Roy at lunch. You know,
Hey, I ain't mad. I mean, hey, I mean,
I
I
love,
get it. I,
I adored Dick Giordano. Don't get me wrong, I adored him. You know, but basically, if Dick said yes, he could get Paul on board. You know, Paul was
mhm,
not he was not that guy. Paul would not come down the hall and meddle in the creative stuff. No matter, sometimes I would beg him to please come and help me win this fight, and Paul would not do it. He said, "Look," he put together this team of rivals, And it was, it'd be like, and he would be very calm, like, no, no, you go work it out. Go talk to Mike Carlin and work it out. Like, but Mike hates me, you go work it out. But, so the creative people would make these decisions, and then the editor in chief would sign off on it, and then he would get the publisher to sign off on it. And then they would go to the marketing department and they would say, go and sell. And the marketing department would go, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And they would go and that's their job. They would execute the plan that the creative department laid out. Now, the marketing people are the ones who are actually pulling the trigger. Because if the numbers come back, if the P&L comes back from marketing and it doesn't look rosy enough, a lot of these things don't get done. And so if you have creator A, okay, who might be a person of color, or might be an LGBTQ plus person, whatever the situation is, that might have less to do with whether or not they get hired as to whether they can move the algorithm one way or another. And the thing about it is, until you put one of these people on a book that people actually read, until you take a chance, like somebody read something that Scott Snyder did in Vertigo and said, we want to take a chance on this guy. And Scott Snyder's first DCU book was Batman. Now think about that for a second. Okay.
They gave him the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah. So the argument that I was making was like, do you really think that a Priest Batman would tank? Because the algorithm says whatever the algorithm says. Look, my grandmother could write a hit Batman book, and she's been dead for 30 years. Okay, it's absurd to think that how bad a writer do you have to be to tank Batman? Well, I don't know.
You'd have to be very special. you like, we're talking like seventh son of the seventh son of the seventh son levels of like the stars would have to be like in a perfect alignment that only happens once every billion years for you to be able to pull that off.
I think if you're really hewing too tightly or too closely to the algorithm and letting the algorithm make your creative choices, that we're losing something, we're draining something. And by the way, Ernie, the algorithm can be wrong, because you've seen books that get canceled prematurely, but the algorithm said they were going to be a hit, didn't they?
Oh, yes. We just saw this at Marvel with, what was it, the Imperial Guardians. That book got canceled like before it even got out of the gate good.
But didn't that have like an awful lot of positive buzz going out the door?
It did. It sure did. But see, and this is kind of my whole issue with the whole thing, because like this is what I also try and get people to understand too, is that I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it is, at least. But I do think that it is. I think it's not malicious. I don't think it's indifference. I think it's something that, while not necessarily intentional, is equally as dangerous. I think it's just that they don't pay it any attention. Like I think that like because when I was looking at that slate of 13 books, I was going down the checklist. I was like, these are all good characters. I'm not saying any of these are bad characters or that DC shouldn't use them. But I was just like, man, I'm looking at this. And then when they did DCKO, they did the big reveal of like the next slate of books. And I was like, man, I said, this is kind of wild to me, because like nowhere in here do I see Mr. Terrific. And like, I'm not saying it has to be Mr. Terrific,
but he was the breakout star of that movie. He was like the most interesting. Him and the dog were the most interesting thing about the movie, to be honest with you.
No. I literally had people like, and I'm not just talking about online. I'm talking about like actual real world people I meet out in the world, people who are part of my family, people who are my friends, people I meet at shops. They would be like, dude, I had no idea Mr. Terrific was that cool. Or like, oh my God, was this a character they made up for the movie? Oh my God, how can I, like, what can I read? What can you put in my hands right now so that I can get more Mr. Terrific? And like, with complete and total embarrassment, and I would say embarrassment that goes into the category of secondhand embarrassment, I had to look them in the eye and say, well, unfortunately,
Any sentence that starts out with "well, unfortunately."
Yeah, it's like, and once again, no shade at no shade at Marquise Draper on this one, because he's doing the best he can. He's been out there fighting the good fight in the trenches to try and get more stuff out there. But like, but the
He's
thing with
fighting
that,
the algorithm. You feel
and
me?
the thing is, you can't win. You can't win that fight by yourself.
And I think that until you take a chance and move somebody like this guy Nicholas Draper Ivy, who I think is an astounding artist, a terrific writer, who could
Very.
become like this triple, quadruple threat, because he paints, he writes, he dances like Michael Jackson. He's got it all.
He's triple threat. Yeah, he's the like he could be the EGOT. He could be the EGOT of comics.
Take a chance on this guy and give him a platform where people can actually see him, and that will change the out. Now you can. You folks who do this content creation, you understand how to work the algorithm, right? You know how important it is, and yet you know how to like battle this particular creature. You don't just lie down for the algorithm. You stand up to it and you train it and you tame it. But you can't just wait for well, we're going to keep giving again, creator A. I don't want to name any names, but creator A. We're going to keep giving creator A this sort of second or third tier stuff until they make a hit out of Steel. Steel's never going to be a big hit. I'm sorry. He's just not going to happen.
I would love for that to be. Okay, this should tell everyone everything they need to know.
Tom King can make Steel a hit. Tom King is. I mean, he's defied the algorithm.
like you know what told me that what was actually the proof. Not only the Tom King bit, but also you had Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
Worf, I tell you, of Star Trek, The Next Generation. And I want to make something clear. I enjoyed his Steel, but if you can't get the Trekkies on board, if you can't mobilize the Trekkies to come run in and pick up a book, I think you have a bigger problem, and it has to do. I think also any character that is derivative of another character is always going to have an uphill battle, and Steel. For as much as I like Steel, and I think to kind of lay some cards on the table, because you have a vested interest in this, because you were one of the many people who actually stood 10 toes down on tackling that character.
Me and Dennis, yeah.
No, I was there. I was there for the run. I remember when it started. I remember picking it up. I was in the shop getting it all the time. So I remember.
It was a dark satire of Superman, with this dysfunctional Superman and this dysfunctional Metropolis with this dysfunctional Lois Lane, and the dysfunctional Jimmy Olsen, which was his irascible niece Natasha, and we were getting away with all this stuff where we had a whole issue where Natasha kept talking about her breasts,
I remember that.
And we got away with that. And the reason we got away with it is I don't think anybody at DC read it. I think they just dismissed the book and nobody paid it. Frank Pittarese was the editor, and me and Frank, we would conspire to see what we could get away with, in Steel. And it was like this dark parody of Superman, anyway.
Well, that's like I said, I would tell anyone that if a person who worked on the book is telling you that this character is probably never going to reach the heights that you want them to reach, I think you should listen, because I remember being a kid, and when the whole Death of Superman, Reign of the Superman bit was going on, I remember even as a child looking at that poster, the preview they had in there, was oh, you can see the Eradicator, you can see Superboy and the Cyborg Superman, and you see Steel, and it's which one of these is the new Superman? And I was
right.
And I remember, and like I said, yes. I want people to understand this. I have been this way. I'm not putting words in my own mouth. I'm not making this up. I was always this way, even when I was a kid. I remember looking at one of my friends because he like we were kind of looking over each other's shoulders. We were reading the book together. And he was like, "Which one do you think is going to be?" And I just looked at him and was like, "Well, it ain't going to be the Negro."
We knew that for sure.
Like I said, I know who it ain't going to be.
My money was on the kid. My money was on the kid. Yeah.
Honestly, that's who I wanted. I like because I mean,
I liked him. Yeah, I wrote him. I put him in Steel. Yeah.
Right. No, I was going to say, realistically speaking, I knew even then, because I think, oh God, when that came out, I might have been like 9 or 10 or something like that. But like, I looked at it and I just saw it for what it was. I was like, there's no way they're going to make this black man Superman. It's never going to happen. So let's not even,
right.
Why would I even get my hopes up for that, knowing it's not going to happen? So I was like, no, I said, honestly, I was like, it's either going to be it's either going to be Superboy. I was like, hey, it's not Steel. It's not Cyborg Superman.
Right.
And you know what? I didn't even know what was up with Eradicator, really, because I was just like, I just don't get this. But, like, I was like, it's got to be Superboy. Yeah. So, like, I feel like when you have a character that is, derivative of another character, and I feel like some characters do get away with that, depending on how well-known the character they're derivative of is. Like, Mr. Terrific gets a free pass.
Miles Morales,
like, and the thing is, and that's two sides. That's actually two sides of the same.
Superior Spider-Man is fun too. You got to.
Oh no! Okay, first off, I'll fight a motherfucker over Superior Spider-Man. I'll be like, look, man, you're not gonna sit here and tell me Superior Spider-Man's bad. You're just
shout
bad.
out the Dan Slott. Yes,
you're right.
Yes.
But no, it's like it's two sides of the same coin, because you have Mr. Terrific, a character who is derivative of another superhero, but nobody really, unless you're like old school comics, you don't know that there's an original Mr. Terrific. So like most people are just like, oh, yeah, he's an original character. They don't know he's a legacy character.
Yeah.
But like Miles Morales, he's literally derivative of the superhero,
right.
the superhero, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of have you can kind of have it two different ways. But the thing is, I feel like so few characters are able to beat that.
Yeah.
But I think they could if people did what you said. If they gave people chances. And that's really what it all boils down to for me. I'm like, give people chances. Let somebody have it. Like, two things. Give creatives a chance and give characters a chance. Because, because I like Storm.
Right there. Yeah.
Storm is the most popular. I think Storm is probably, short of Miles Morales, the most popular black superhero in existence right now.
We got to talk about the X-Men, by the way. Not now, but we got.
Oh yeah, no. Because somebody asked me about your thoughts on that. So you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay. But I've been watching you. No, really.
I've been letting the chopper off on the X-Men lately.
Gosh.
I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize, but I don't apologize at the same time. But no, I was talking to somebody about this, about how, Storm was not always Storm. Storm became Storm because they just kept putting her in shit. She was always around. Like, it was like, oh, well, yeah, we're just gonna have Storm there. Yeah, Storm's there. Yeah, we're doing a relaunch of the X-Men. We're putting them in the Outback. Who's going to be on the roster? Oh, yeah, we're going to put Storm in there. Okay, cool. All right, well, we're relaunching the X-Men again. We got Jim Lee coming in and drawing all this stuff. Who we want to hear? Yeah, put Storm in there. Like, Storm was just, like, I don't think there was ever a run of X-Men since 1975 where Storm was just...
Not there.
Not around. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm sure there has been, but like it was the bug, not the feature. So that's why I always tell people, like, you have to give these characters a chance to, like.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you have to, because here's the thing: you can't make Storm if you don't create Storm. Like Storm can't become Storm if she doesn't get the opportunity. Same thing goes with Bishop.
Oh yeah,
like Bishop is just always around. Make some of these other characters just like Black Lightning. He should always be around. He should always be around. Mr. Terrific should always be around. Vixen should always be around. I think it just like, and they kind of did it with Jon Stewart. I feel like, they like Jon Stewart is just always around. But I am curious what you think. What you think about because there has been that conversation that certain characters don't. There's not any popular. There's not any popular black character. There's not any popular Latino character that that can sell a book. And I don't know. I feel like those. I feel like maybe people are trying to say something without saying something when they say that, but
Well, nobody wants to say it, and nobody.
right.
I don't want to get canceled. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. I don't want to say it either. But
Right.
the thing about it is, it's like again, you got to dance with the ones who brung you. You got to understand
Yeah.
who the audience for superhero comics are. Now, what percentage of that audience are Black, Latino, LGBTQ, women, these groups? What percentages are we talking, as opposed to the overwhelming percentage is white males, right?
Right.
So if you want to sell a Vixen book, you need to find a way to make Vixen appeal broadly across the spectrum. And I think that's why, like, Iron Fist book didn't work, and Luke Cage's book didn't work, but you put together Power Man and Iron Fist, and now you got something, right? I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily have the answer, but I think Tom King. I want to go back to Tom because
Yeah.
what you said was so prescient about, like, not only give Black creators a chance, but give, like, some of these characters, these off characters, a chance. Tom King has proved beyond any reasonable doubt that characters that we just threw on the trash heap, the human target of all things. I mean, when I heard this book was coming out, I was like, is Tom okay? Is somebody check on Tom?
Wait, is this a hostage situation?
I mean, Adam Strange, Tom, really? And he just blew us all away. Now
It was great.
Now, not everything Tom does is going to land. Not everything I do is going to land. But you know what? I go out there, Ernie, and I swing as hard as I can, and I take my shot. And
Right.
some things work and some things don't work, and I'm like, oops, well, we did our best. But again, we are at war with the algorithm, and I'm not trying to make excuses for the publishers. I'm just going, they're trying to keep the lights on in a very uncertain economy, and remember I told you the story about, like, how before all you had to do was get Dick to sign off after lunch.
Yeah.
Um,
You wait till after lunch. You
wait
wait
till
till
after lunch.
he's a little loosey goosey.
and he's hanging out in the office, and we're all having a great time. And, like, oh, by the way, let me slide this, permissions, this release form here.
Yeah, remember the book you signed? You said we said we were good to go.
Yeah, but back in those days, and one day you have to get Paul Levitz on your show so he can actually clarify all this. But back in those days, Paul Levitz's main job was to keep the studio out of the office. Okay, so Jeanette Kahn, who I just adore, just a wonderful woman, and just delightful. Every time I ran into her, or every time I was in her office, I was never unhappy to see Jeanette. Two people in this business I was never unhappy. Jeanette and Stan, were just, I'm serious. They had this effervescent personality. But Jeanette and Paul had worked out this hustle where Jeanette would be the person who would liaise with the studio and so forth, and Paul would be like the Chinese wall, where Paul would stand as a barrier, as a human shield, like Jean-Luc Picard. This far, no father. He would not let the studio into DC's offices. Okay, and then Paul retires, or whatever. And again, not to throw shade on Dan DiDio, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But DC got scooped up and moved out west. And not only was the studio in our office, the DC office was in the studio. It was just they just kind of absorbed the company. And now Disney is all up in Marvel's Kool-Aid, and Discovery Plus, or whoever owns DC this week. They're all up in the Kool-Aid over there. So so these decisions about how to greenlight books, or what creators to put on books, stuff like that. There's a lot more stressors, on Jim Lee and Dan Buckley than Paul Levitz, or whoever was running Marvel in those days, had. And it has gone from being almost a purely creative choice and a choice to try something new, like to let this Denny O'Neil guy and Neil Adams play with Green Lantern and Green Arrow and do this really controversial stuff, like we're going to crucify Christ on the tail wing of Green Arrow's plane. I mean, that was some ballsy stuff.
I mean,
okay,
like you said, big swings.
Watchmen could never be approved today. Never. It would never.
No.
Under no circumstances.
I think you would have an immediate rejection.
It's too risky.
Well, yeah. Look no further than Marvel.
It's a big blue penis. It's a naked guy.
Well, I mean, I think that it's very telling that we had a Luke Cage book that was fully finished, solicited, ready to be sent to.
Or was it somebody else?
No. This was I'm forgetting who wrote this one, but it was, I think it was called, if I remember correctly, I think it was called Luke Cage City on Fire, but like it was.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was solicited, but it was never released. It was pulled because they said it was too close to some stuff that was like it was too close to like all the summer of BLM and a lot of the police violence stuff, and they were like, oh, we don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, so they shit canned the book
because we don't want to offend anybody, left, right, center. We don't want to offend anybody. We want everybody. I want everybody to buy my book. So yeah, I get that. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just I feel like, man, it was like if there was a time to tell that story.
Yeah.
It probably would have been then,
yeah.
But like at the same time, you like I said, you want to reach as broad an audience. That's what I was talking about earlier today when I said you got to reach everybody. Like even if your book, regardless of what kind of centric, like if you write a black book, a brown book, an LGBTQIA plus book, a whatever book, you still kind of want to be able to grab everybody else as well and bring them along for the ride.
But remember how you're probably too young for this, but remember, I remember how absolutely thrilling it was to read the Harry Osborn's on drugs, Spider-Man story, and then Jerry Conway, crucifies. Throws Gwen Stacy off a bridge and then crucifies the Green Goblin, and I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I was like, comics was so friggin' vital,
Oh yeah.
And it didn't have to go through this phalanx. It didn't have to go through the algorithm. It didn't have to go with all these checks and balances and all this other stuff.
I wish we could get away from that. I wish we could. I know we'll never get away from that unless like something just crazy happens. But like, I would like for us to get back to the time when creatives had at least, I won't say more control, but just an easier path to to seeing something through, because I like to remind people that even you have your writers that are writing the book, but I mean you also have editors that have say over what you can get away with. So I mean the editors in some cases,
the editors are used, but the editors are almost always responding to the people above them. So a lot of times the editors take heat for stuff, Ernie, that you have to kind of like pull back and get the macro and go, okay, yeah, but was that really the editor's creative choice, or did that come from above them? Like we did stuff in the world to come that Marvel was absolutely thrilled with, and then.
I was gonna say it was after that.
And then that's how I found you. I wrote that book like almost 7 years ago. Okay. And I had frankly forgotten about it. And then Marvel didn't even tell us, Joe or I, when the book was coming out. All of a sudden we're like, oh, the book's out? Oh, really?
That is.
And then all of a sudden, like everybody's like yelling at me, and I got people on the left who are just hating me, and I got people on the right who are just cheering, like, yes, we got one. Finally, we got one. Priest is great. Gave us chocolate cake, Right?
That's how you knew media literacy was dead on both sides of the aisle. Because that was the thing I kept trying to tell people. I was like, look, I said, I hope y'all understand this dude's not the hero. Like, I mean, like he is he is. Katama is the Black Panther, but in this case, the Black Panther is the villain of the story. Like, or rather, his version of Black Panther is, more of a villain of the story. Like T'Challa is still very much, the hero,
Right.
of it. And I feel like if you walked out of that book, thinking that, finally they finally gave me the White Panther. Yeah, they finally gave me the White Panther. Or if you walked out of that book thinking, how dare he make a white man the Black Panther? I was like, look, you got to understand. Let the story keep going. Just let it keep going.
Well, the thing about it is, it's just like, it just took on a life of its own and became more and more absurd. You know, and then I saw some some Black content creators saying, well, that explains a lot about Priest. He's not really Black, and these are really hurtful things to say.
It's like, it's like, wait, where your grandmother from? Where your grandmother from? That's probably what they did. They try and pull some FBA.
And I never really understood this about the business, where I went, well, okay, it's one thing to not like my story, but they have to say, we don't like your story and your mother is ugly.
Right?
They have to go there.
And that's why that was actually why I made my video talking about it in the way that I did, because I wanted people to understand that the story is not what you think it is, and the way the storytelling works is that sometimes bad things have to, like, heaven forbid in a story about superheroes who wear masks and do superhero stuff, that something bad happens.
Something really bad has to happen.
First. It has to happen first.
This is a book about, and when Joe was trying to drag me into this thing, I was really reluctant, because I said, look, I've seen writers go back to characters that they had, sort of cut their teeth on,
right.
And the second run is not any good. And they're comparing the new run to the old run, and they kind of I don't want to embarrass myself, and I was like, we would need a story that I've never done before, and that would make a difference. So my Black Panther run in the 90s was usually about this guy who was usually 5 steps ahead of his enemies. And you'd have, like, the first 3 acts of the story, people would start to doubt my sanity and think, like, oh, you're a terrible writer, and Black Panther seems to be, like, losing or whatever like that. And then you get around, part 3 or near the climax, and you'd start to see the mouse traps snapping shut. And you start to realize, oh, this was Panther's plan all along. It was Scooby-Doo,
It was very much like, I feel like I shouldn't at this point have to explain this to people, but I hope everyone knows that Black Panther's usually the smartest person in the room. Yes. So like, it usually, it's like, it made, okay. So I will say,
But let me finish.
It made my head hurt. Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
So for World to Come, so the way that Joe got me into this thing was, I said, well, wait a minute. This might interest me. What if we wrote a story where, and we're doing the same formula, where Black Panther is enacting some scheme or whatever, but let's do a story where Panther screws up. Because I've never done that before. I've always written him as being almost a little too perfect. And I wanted to write a story where, like, he has this plan and it blows up in his face, and that's what this story is about. And it's all about all of these years of his self-deception and him manipulating his friends and his enemies. All the sacrifices he's made to protect his kingdom, because that's basically his deal here. I'll have to sacrifice my marriage, my relationships, my friendships, the teammates with the Avengers. All that is secondary to Wakanda. You understand? So he has, made these decisions his whole life. And now these are the last years of his life. And the chickens are coming home to roost. And all of these, deceptions, these moves that he's made are now impacting him, and now the world, the whole planet is suffering, which is kind of an allegory to what's actually going on. It's really scary how, like, reality is tracking this story, and people are going, "Oh, you're making a commentary about or politics or whatever." And I go, I want to emphasize, I wrote this 7 years ago. When I wrote this. we kind of knew who Donald Trump was because he was the president, certainly, but it was early in his term, and
Right.
I had no idea, whatever. So we're not tracking with politics. Politics is It's like the world is reading the world to come and going, oh, this is what we should be doing. We should be going right in the toilet because that's what's going with the world to come.
Yeah.
And the climax of this thing, which Joe is drawing very slowly.
Okay, and I did want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you could talk. I didn't know if you could talk about it in
Sure.
to here, but that was actually something that I did want to bring up. Was like
That Joe is drawing it very slowly?
right? Like where is? Because I mean we've gotten we're still waiting on issue 6.
I believe it's 6.
So yeah, we're still waiting on issue 6.
I think five is out. I hope it 5
5 is out. Yeah, no,
Okay.
5 is out. I remember reading 5. So
Oh,
6 is all, I'm assuming on the way, but also I know there's some really weird iffy stuff going on with Marvel and like the different like imprints and stuff. Like what aren't
No.
their future plans or whatever with
Has
like
nothing to do with it. No.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Okay.
No. It's just I just make this joke about Joe is just out golfing with Jim Lee. And when they're done, their 2 books will finally come. I mean, these 2 superstars.
I mean, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. I mean, because I don't like. I'm gonna keep it a stack. I don't think we ever get to Hush 2. I don't think we're ever getting the. We're never getting the ending to Hush 2.
Or sure you will.
It'll be next year. It'll be next year.
As far as my book goes,
Oh yeah.
I've seen the pages. They're gorgeous. He's almost done. He's leaving nothing on the table. And this is, Ernie, when it's done, we'll come back here. You and I we'll chop it up. And then you tell me the pluses and minuses of the series. Because when people reacted to issue 1, my main problem was that the guy wasn't the Black Panther. You become the Black Panther through the tribal challenge, and
Right.
either the challenger, either the king concedes or he dies. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and T'Challa in issue 1, T'Challa had done neither. Okay, so
Correct.
he looked like he was injured or whatever, and then Katama pulls the mask off and he declares himself or whatever, but he wasn't the Black Panther. He hadn't won. And then in issue 2,
Right.
T'Challa concedes to save Ross's life. He concedes to save Ross's life. But basically it's like this perfect plan of T'Challa's that comes off completely unglued. But the fact that I think it's issue 3. There's the coronation. Here's Ryan Gosling being coronated as the new Black Panther, right? And I had that line in there, and Joe made me take it out. It's like, the coronation of Ryan Gosling, and it was a funny line, and Marvel loved it, and Joe was like, under no circumstances.
Man, let us have fun. Damn. Jeez.
It was a funny line. Anyway.
Man, Joe, get back to drawing the book. Don't worry about let Chris do what he do. You get on the book.
So there's this moment in the coronation where Ross and Monica turn around and T'Challa is gone. And that should be your first clue, Sherlock, that is up to something, that there's more going on here, and that there's these machinations within machinations. So all I had asked for, the readers is like, okay, I would like it's a story. I'd like you to read the story if you can, and then after it's all done, now if you want to lambast me, I will make myself available for lambasting. But I think the issue 6 is very powerful. It's all about really about legacy. It's about regrets over mistakes. We've all made mistakes. You said you're in your 40s. You're still a very young man. The day will come when you'll be a very old man, God willing, that you will live a long life.
Yes.
But you will look back over your life, Ernie, and you will look at the pluses and minuses of the choices that you've made along the road. So this is all this stuff coming to a head for T'Challa, and it's very painful, confession, and spoiler alert, there's a big fight at the end. I know that's shocking. I know that's shocking.
Oh my God.
I've completely blown it.
Jeez,
And Joe
thanks
is
for
drawing the hell out of
spoiling.
this. Joe is drawing the hell out of this thing. I'm telling you. And he's drawing like every hair on every leg of every centipede
Good God.
crawling across the page. And I'm like, oh, Joe, lighten up. It's no,
I mean,
more. It's awesome.
yeah,
He's just doing just awesome work.
as a person who is an artist himself, I'm a cut Joe some slack because for as much as I have talked cash money shit about artists being late on books, I would not pass the test my damn self if put to the task. So but I only say so much in that I know I wouldn't. I would not be able to make I'm not a deadline guy. I know that. This is why I prefer, like, if someone asks me to do something, I would rather draw a cover than draw interiors because I can do that in a night. Right. But a whole thing, I'd be like, man, look, can y'all give me, like, can I get an extension? Can we push this back like a couple of months, man? Because this is a lot. Well, so yeah, I get it. I get the whole being
sure.
behind.
Well, the problem with me is that a lot of times I'm waiting on inspiration, and waiting on inspiration is a lot like waiting on a bus. Now when I was a kid, my mom was a private duty nurse, and she would work for some of these clients that lived out well, for lack of a better term, the white neighborhood. Okay. So then we'd have to take the bus home. Like if she couldn't get a sitter, I'd have to go to work with her. Me and my sister would go to work with her, and I remember there was more than one occasion where New York would get hit with some kind of crazy snowstorm, and we'd be standing out there, and I'm a little kid, and the snow is like up to my chest, and we're waiting on this bus that's not coming. And mom would kind of teach us this little song, like, come on, bus, or whatever the song was, to try to pass the time, but we were poor people waiting on a bus, that's not coming. That's what it's like to be a professional writer, where you're waiting on that bus to come. Now, sometimes when the inspiration is happening, here's the part where it makes me want to kill everyone in the building. The inspiration is happening. I am now hemorrhaging pages. It's riding like butter, Ernie. I'm just knocking it out. It's happening. And the editor, I'm waiting for the editor to say, yes, no, go, stop, thumbs up, thumbs down. I need some sort of I need the editor to turn a key or hit a switch or something.
Right.
And I can't get it. And I'm like, you're making me stop while you understand the magic's here. The magic's happening. And you're screwing me up now. You gotta let me go. Because once it's gone, Ernie, it's gone. Okay. That's when you have to call Mark Waid. Okay. That's what everybody does. This is a dirty secret in this building.
Oh my God.
Everybody who has access to Mark Waid calls Mark Waid.
They call Mark Waid.
Mark up stuff. Right.
It's funny, because I've never had the pleasure of personally speaking to Mark Waid, but I get the impression he's a pretty awesome dude because I feel like obviously I've encountered people who have bad things to say about them, but they're usually bad people.
Let me interrupt you 1 second here. And just Mark Waid should be an honorary black person in this business because no one has been shat on more than Mark Waid. None of us can have any complaint. Because for a long time, they fired Mark Waid from DC on Christmas Eve. You understand me?
Oh,
I'm walking down the hall, and I see Mark in the hall, and I go, because Mark had just edited me on Secret Origins. This was a long time ago, and I was like, hey, Mark, he did a great job, editing that book. And I just said, hey, you did a great job. And he goes, haven't you heard? Heard what? I've been fired. So yeah, it's like it's Christmas Eve, and then Mark Waid was not allowed to work at DC for a very long time. So before I start complaining, woe is me, and the white man done me wrong. The white man done Mark Waid wrong. Okay?
I mean, I don't know how much this news is out there, but even new history of the DC universe, like the Dakota the Dakota incident. Yes. A lot of that was
Mark Waid.
Yeah, that was Mark Waid. Waid, because
consulting, yes.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but advocating for the milestone stuff.
Yep.
To be a part of that, and I think of Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Like I think and I not to say, y'all got to go out and like, kiss the man's Converse or nothing for it, but I mean, I think people should be a lot less spicy about their words about Mark Waid, because I'm sorry, the man's a genius, and near as far as I can tell, based on the limited interactions I've had with him, he strikes me as like a genuinely nice person. Who also happens to be a good writer, a great writer, I'd say.
He's a very genuinely nice person. And, and I think Mark and Marie and, the folks at DC, certainly Marquise, I keep getting him confused with the content creator Marquez Brownlee. He's Marquise. He's Marquez. And I kept trying to. By the way, I don't know how to get in touch with Marquez Brownlee. But we did this cover for Black Adam. Where they did a painted cover of the character Bolt, the black sidekick. Yeah. And he looks just like Marquez Brownlee. And I was like, was that intentional? Are we getting sued here?
I mean, now that now you've said it, I kind of think back on it.
There were two paintings. One had kind of a smiling kid, that wasn't him, and one had kind of a more serious guy. And he's got Marquez's hair, and he's got the look, and he's like, and all he needs to do is hold up an iPad, and I go, hey, there he is.
It's like, hey, this iPad, this is actually okay. Maybe that should have been a thing.
And I'm such a fan of this guy because he was a kid. He was a kid with an iPhone. He started with an iPhone. He was like, 9 years old, 12, whatever he was. And he's built this thing, to this great empire. And, and I'm like, if people are hating on this guy, stop it. This guy worked every day, to build this. I'm so in awe of this guy, Well,
I mean, I know people like to think that, being a content creator is like an easy gig. It's not. It's like don't get me wrong. Like I will say there is a difference between people who just get on, turn on a camera and pop on a video game and just sit there and play the video game while people talk to them. That's one thing. It's easy. I'm not saying that's like the easiest, but like that's different than people who actually like craft content from like the ground up, like literally it requires a level of creativity and also a level of just you have to have a talent for it or you don't. Like there's no in between there. But like I'll be the first one to say it. Like anyone who can do that, I tip my hat because I mean it's hard.
I used to run a Christian website. It's called PraiseNet.org. PraiseNet is one word. PraiseNet.org. It's still up there somewhere, but it's been kind of abandoned for a while because I have no time to work on it. But when I was doing this online ministry, I would have to kind of write the scripts or write the content, and then I have to go in and I have to gather like the visual stuff. And kind of pull it into Photoshop and edit all this stuff like that. And then I got to write the code, and by the end of the week, I'm just exhausted. And, if no one's donating, if no one's like supporting it, now in addition to that, I've got to, go out and sing for my supper. I got to find some way to keep the lights on over here, so my hat's off to all of you content creators who are, particularly you guys who are one-man shops who are actually doing your own editing and all this other stuff. My God, that's a lot. Really, it's just a lot.
It was when there were people who were like kind of like up my ass for a while because it was like they were like, well, wait a minute, you're doing this. And it's like, well, you said you were making a comic. Well, why isn't they were always like, where's the comic? Where's the comic? And it's like, well, I was like, here's the thing. I was like, and one of them is out, the other one's not yet. But but I was trying to explain to people that I do most of my own editing. And I was like, I'm also a husband and a father.
Wow.
And I also, on the other thing that's not out yet, I am the writer, the artist, and inker and whatever on that, possibly even the letterer. I don't even know.
Wow.
But so I was like, all of that stuff takes it takes work, and one thing is gonna suffer to the other. So it's kind of like, I was like, look, man, y'all are gonna get stuff from me when you get it. And that's just that's once again why I am, I make my jokes about Hush 2 and whatnot, but like I also understand why creativity takes time.
And Jim Lee runs a company.
Yeah, that's
a job.
I was gonna say, I think that's also the other thing. I think sometimes people forget that he is in charge. Yeah. Like, he is
creative officer.
Yeah, he is the end. He is literally he's the alpha and the omega in that regard.
Yeah.
As far as DC Comics is concerned. So it's like, I get it. Like, we can be salty, but I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to understand.
Yeah.
And honestly, you don't want any comic that is made quickly.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who needs to hear that, but
well, no, you're right. Although there are a few. I worked with this. I almost called him a kid. I'm sorry. I worked with this fella named Montos, and Montos was doing Green Arrow recently, and he did. Joseph Illage found him for Entropy, my heavy metal series that died when heavy metal died. And we pulled him in on a couple of issues of Black Adam because our artist came down with COVID, and we were just screwed. And when I called up Montos, and he did these fabulous pages that just looked gorgeous, and he did like 15 pages in a week or something like that. So there are people who can. Yeah.
That's the exception.
Yeah.
That's the exception to the rule. Like Nicholas Schraper-Ivy, I consider him a friend.
I don't know how fast he is, but it's gorgeous stuff.
Yeah, no, he's a fast guy. He's quick.
And but more than that, it's like, I'm looking at this and going, I've never quite seen this done like this before. Like, we've seen how many pictures of people flying through the air, but Nicholas finds a way to do it in a unique way, and then he has such an eye for color that is just like, I don't know, Ernie, it's like, you just kind of stop in your tracks and go, wow, that's different.
Well, you have
new,
to.
It's fresh. It's like, wow, look at that.
And it's also the reason why I'm sad that DC has not taken proper advantage of his talent, because you want to talk about people always want to talk about people aren't doing anything fresh, people aren't doing anything new, people aren't doing this, they're not doing that. And this is also kind of what leads me to always say, like, maybe we should hire more, or give more chances or opportunities to more diverse creatives, because you're always going to get the same old ideas if you keep hiring the same old people. Eventually at some point the well's going to run dry, at least a little bit. So you maybe bring somebody new in, get some fresh ideas in there, and then get the entire entire circulation system going. Like it helps.
Because I've tried to explain that, like, and I'm just speaking for what I know. Let's say for Black people, is that that we look at the world very differently from many, if not most, white people. When I was in ministry, I was trying to explain that the reason why, in the aggregate, white churches have more resources than Black churches is that in the white community, they have a higher income and they tend to be giving of their excess, while in the Black church, we are giving of our need,
Yeah.
So you have like a single mom trying to pay tithes, when she's struggling to keep the lights on at her house and so forth, so there's just a dichotomy. So I'm going, I want to read a story that's kind of written from the perspective of like, I was talking about comic book shops, about how, like, you're trying to get black people to come into, or black kids to come into a comic book shop, but you get to the comic book shop, and some of these, or particularly women, they come to the comic book shop, and the storefront of the comic book shop sometimes is papered over with these posters, and these posters have like, these sort of like they represent white culture in a very megalomaniacal way. So to us, sometimes it's not just Superman, but it's super white man, because that's how we see him.
It's white male heterodoxy, basically.
Exactly. And particularly if you're a woman, like you can't see what's going on in the store. Like, well, what's going to happen to me if I go in here? And it doesn't feel like inclusive. Or some of the best comic shops that I've been to, they've cleared a lot of the clutter from the storefront. So just passing by, you can look inside and you can see it's a clear, uncluttered sort of environment in there. It looks safe. It looks welcoming. That kind of thing seems to work, in my opinion, a little better. On the retail level. But let's tell some stories from some different perspectives, because I have a lot of gay friends and their journey, who have shared their journey with me. And their journey is very different from my journey, and their perspective. We went to the same church, we went to the same school, we went to blah blah blah. But their experience at that church, their experience at that school is very different, and how they would see this archetypal or superhero flying overhead, how they would receive that, how they would process that would be very different, and probably very interesting, to explore, in my opinion.
Oh no, 100%. Like I said, I was even just very recently telling people that, like, it's not to say I necessarily walk into a room and intentionally count the amount of diverse faces I see in a crowd, but I do notice when there's a lack thereof, and like everybody's perspective, like just as my perspective is going to be different from like the average white man's, a gay person's is going to be just as equally different from mine, as is the next person, and so on and so on and so on. So the more that we add those pieces to the puzzle, I feel like we get a more complete picture. And I don't think there's any harm in it. I think that it's why for a long time I used to say that, I think that when we have a black character focused, comic, I want to see a black person write it, not necessarily because I think, white men can't write black characters. They can. They have the capacity to. We've seen it before. Some do it better than others. But the reason why is because there's gonna be little things. Little things that only a black person would know. Little things only a black person would be able to identify that a white person, just on average, like the chances of them, like I remember when Kamala Khan first hit the scene, and it was like, this was important because I learned a lot about, Muslim culture, like the nuances and the subtleties,
but in a fun and non-threatening way.
In a fun and non-threatening, 100% in a fun, non-threatening way.
She didn't forget to entertain us,
Right, because it wasn't that and that's the thing I think, once again, kind of, to speak to your point. Kamala Khan, yes, Muslim superhero. However, she is a person first. And it's like, she is a complete person. It's like, okay, she is both Muslim. She is also a Pakistani American, teenage, girl, also a super fan of comics. It's like she, like, and I think that's the problem I have sometimes when people who are not of that particular diaspora write those characters. Sometimes it's because they're not going to make, not all the time, but they're not going to have that character be a complete person, which is why I'm even more okay when non-white creatives write white characters, because we kind of have to know. I know people are probably going to get angry when I say this, but as black and brown people, any non-white person in America, white culture is your culture, because white culture is kind of the default culture.
It's the
So we
majority of
all,
culture. Yeah.
right, like we all had to navigate white culture in some
Yes.
way, shape, form, or fashion, whereas
Yes.
white people aren't necessarily forced to do that in any meaningful way unless they either choose to
Right.
or they just have a very specific set of circumstances. But like that's why like when I see you writing a Deathstroke book or a Justice League book, whatever, or I see some, I see we were talking about Jamal Campbell writing Zatanna. That's a whole white woman right there.
Right.
When I see any black creative. Hell, I'll take another one. I'll pluck another one out of the ether. Stephanie Williams,
Yes.
who is writing Street Sharks over at IDW.
Mm-hmm.
Whole black woman.
Yep.
None of those characters are, well, except for like the one black chick, but like none of those characters, are black. But yet, because white culture is by default a part of our culture, we had to navigate it. We can be equally as equipped to write a black character as we would a white character, and it would be equally as believable. Because we kind of have to walk in both of those worlds to
Yes.
a point where we have to know. So that's I don't know. I'm all for people.
Yeah, but
Getting the spread.
but the and the problem is that I think that and I think the publishers are getting better at it. I think when they first started to kind of lean into diversity, they went, okay, let's do a quick fix. Let's take this character, that character, that character. We're going to paint this guy brown, and we're going to make the Ray gay, and we're going to do these other things here. But you made the Ray gay, but you didn't tell his story. You didn't tell the journey of how he went from obsessing over his girlfriend Jenny to being this gay person. And every gay person that I know, in my personal experience, has a story, has a journey.
Right. They're complete people.
Of how they came to accept themselves in a world that is openly hostile to their breathing, to just them existing, and that's why I felt like, that the Ray being gay felt inauthentic to me, because we had not told that story. And I would like DC to tell that story.
Yes.
And the same thing with with Black Wally West. I have nothing against Black Wally West or Black Aqualad or any of these other characters there. But it becomes a result oriented proposal where you start with, okay, this character is gay, straight, black, whatever the attribute is, and that becomes the focus, as opposed to a character like Jericho in Deathstroke, where Jericho was he's the good son struggling with the evil inside him, and at some point he attempts to kill somebody to protect his secret that he's secretly a bisexual, that he's a closeted bisexual. So his bisexuality is certainly part of the character's makeup, but it's not the main feature. The main feature is his being the good son struggling with the evil inside him. And oh, by the way, he happens to be bisexual. And I thought we did that in a credible way. And also, I thought that what Marv Wolfman and what George Perez did with the character that they created, and I'll let Marv speak for Marv, but in my opinion, when I was reading this stuff, I always assumed, everyone always assumed that Jericho, was at the very least bisexual, if not gay.
Right.
We just assumed, So I thought that there was a predicate for that. Whereas with John Kent, there was really nothing in what, Peter and Mr. Gleason, what they were doing in their Super Son series. There was nothing there that laid a foundation for the decision to make Jonathan bisexual. I don't mind Jonathan being bisexual.
No.
I'm talking about just as a writer, there being a foundation for it.
It needs to make sense, and it also I know my fair share of gays and theys, and they are all people. Like they're not
Yes.
they're not like they're not just their sexuality, they're not just their gender identity. They have
Yeah.
a full background. They have thoughts and hopes and dreams and
Yes.
aspirations and goals.
Yes.
And I want to know about more of those things when you know, not just in those people, but I want to know about them in you know, in those characters. But like, I also at the same time feel like, kind of like what you were saying, like in those early goings, it was just a lot of box ticking.
Yeah,
And
that's
it was
it.
like we
Yes.
have to fill a quota.
Yeah.
So and you know what? I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, yay, you guys are finally realizing we need this, but also at the same time, I'm like, but maybe next time try better. Like honestly, I think instead of taking characters and like flipping them or trying to remix them, I am always a proponent for just making new characters. Now that said, you know, people don't always gravitate towards new characters,
Right.
but I feel like if you write a new character well enough, you can beat the spread on that whole thing.
Yeah.
But you also have to be willing to or I won't even say I don't want to lay all the onus on just the creative team either, but you know, the company also kind of has to be in lockstep, you know, with the creative team to be like, hey, we're gonna take a chance. And you know, I it's not my money, so
back to the algorithm.
Right. It's like, look, I'm not far be it for me to tell somebody what to do with their money, especially when it ain't my money.
Right.
But if it were my money, I think it's okay to. I mean, I think it's okay to take a chance every now and again. Marvel and DC,
it's important to take a shot every now and then.
yeah. I mean, Marvel and DC both have taken chances on books sometimes that, yeah, I think one of the biggest controversy, well, I would say controversy, but one of the biggest things that I had talked about recently was that Scott Snyder had literally, and people acted like I was putting words in his mouth, but I mean, I wasn't. I literally just repeated what he said, that, the Green Arrow series, which ran for 2.5 years, he said the book was not sustainable.
Wow.
And that's wild considering that apparently the book was doing really well at first and it got upgraded from like a mini to an ongoing, but like at some point after 31 issues, the book was not sustainable.
What was the context of that? What?
I think he was talking from a sales perspective because, like, I mean, the book was critically well received. I don't think
the numbers weren't there.
Yeah, the numbers. He was talking from like a financial perspective that the numbers weren't meeting the expectation that DC had. Right. And my thing is, we have seen, in my opinion, either equally as good or better books get canceled way quicker.
Yeah.
So that's always my concern. I'm like, we got to take chances, and you know what? Maybe be more transparent to people about what it takes to make a book successful. And because Dan Slott recently came under fire for doing a totally normal thing in promoting his comic.
Which was?
And asking people to promote his comic. This was the new Spider-Man book he has.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that. Why were people mad at him? Because he was like, buy the book because you don't want to get canceled, which is logical.
People. So I actually took screenshots of this because it was so hilarious, and I needed to save it for posterity. But there were people who were saying, Spider-Man writer begging for people to buy his book, Spider-Man writer crying for people to buy his book. And the thing is, if you actually watch that particular incident, Dan Slott was not begging. He was not crying. He was not freaking out. He was very calm and measured. And he basically just said, hey, if you like my stuff, if you've ever liked any of my Spider-Man stuff, go ask for this to be put in your pull box.
Right.
And basically he was kind of like, and I think he even agreed with me on this, that it wasn't so much that he said something people didn't like. It was he said something that people weren't familiar with.
Or weren't accustomed to seeing a creator do.
Or to talk about the business side, like, hey, you need to pre-order this book. Like, you can't just pre-order issue 1. You got to pre-order issue 2. You got to pre-order issue 3. Like, you can't just because basically he was saying you can't just walk in the store and pick up the book
because the odds are against everything these days.
Oh,
because
yes.
the orders get cut in half with issue 2, get cut in half again with issue 3. It's really rough, out there. So
Right. It's people didn't know how it worked.
right.
That's what I don't think people didn't know how it worked.
Yeah, but
And
you explained it. It's like
yeah.
that's why FOC matters. Is
Yes.
because it sends the message to the retailer and the publisher. That
Right.
okay, that there's a demand for the book there, so you get all
Right.
that in there.
My general rule of thumb is if you walk into a shop and buy a book, you support at the shop. Yeah, if you just
Right.
buy it off the shelf,
off the shelf. Yes.
yeah, you're supporting the shop. If you
Right.
pre-order the book and then come into the shop and buy it, you're supporting the book,
Book.
and you're supporting the shop. So
Yep. Yeah.
I always
doing
say, yeah, do both. Both is always to me preferable.
both. Yeah.
And it's not to say I want to dispel a myth. It's not to say you can't pre-order a book after FOC. The issue is that you just have a less likely chance of getting it.
Yeah.
Like at that, like you're rolling the dice if you do it after FOC. I still think you should, but just saying, but you might want to get in ahead of time.
Yeah. But if you're watching this tomorrow, order Vampirella anyway.
Yeah, no, still do it anyway. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So please still ask for Vampirella.
No, don't dig, 'cause now we'll be on blast.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Hi, Vampirella.
Well, wait a minute. So wait, are you meaning telling me I'm gonna hit the trifecta? So basically, I've been begging Massa for scraps at DC. I've been begging Marvel for scraps at you over there for you.
Yes.
I've been begging Massa Marvel. I've been begging Massa DC. Now I'm begging Massa Dynamite. So yeah, that's crazy, man. It's crazy. I'm just but
All right.
in all seriousness, I do want people to go pre-order this book because it's good. First off, it's been good. Like, you've been writing Vampirella for a while.
Yes.
You are the longest.
But I feel like I just figured out how to do it. I mean, we're really going off. We're going off in this whole new direction with issue number 1. It reads more like Batman. She's like this enforcer, and it's like a crime noir here that's going on, and it's this story about these 4 women who share this trauma bond, and how they kind of work their way through it. But it's a great place to jump in there and start on there. Anyway, I really want to, before we go.
Oh yeah, yes.
We have to talk about the X-Men because this seems to be like your obsession, and I want to preface this by saying, like, I used to be like among the biggest X-Men fans ever. I was a huge Chris Claremont fan. I was just hanging out with Chris Claremont in Richmond. I love him like a uncle or cousin or whatever. He's a little older than me, not a lot older than me, but he's a little older than me. And I adore him, and I just have such awe and admiration for the world that Chris and Dave Cockrum and John Byrne and Jim Lee, that these guys built, over the years and so forth. So I've watched a few of your videos, and I have to ask you, Ernie, what the hell? What's going on? Wait a minute. Wait, why is Scott a jerk? How did that happen? What happened? What Storm is a goddess now? What's going on? Well, I don't understand. And there's all these people in X-Men United, and they're all like, having lunch, and like, who are these people? I'm like, so I'm just wondering. And don't explain it because it'll take too long. Okay? Yeah. But my question, I have 2 questions for you. One is, how do you actually keep track of it? Do you keep a personal database? I mean, it's a lot to track here. Number 1, and then number 2. In your opinion, what is the main appeal of the X-Men? Why does this franchise continue to be, whether you love it or hate it, why does it continue to be an important franchise in the comics business?
So
now I'm interviewing you. Okay?
Yeah, you know what? let me put on my put on my interviewee cap. The first one's easy. I have a mind that is a steel trap for bullshit. If you ask me what are like some important dates about things that happen in my actual like life, I probably would pause. But if you ask me about some shit that happened in a comic book, I will. There's a not. I mean, honestly, yeah. There's a 100% chance I probably will have some level of recall. But like, for me, I read these books, I absorb these books, and I kind of make it my business to like file that stuff away in a very specific part of my head.
Yeah.
But like, and even sometimes I forget stuff, and I have blind spots just like everybody else. There are certain eras of X-Men I did not read, like at all. Like I was completely checked out. Like I was not there. Like I'm sorry, and it's not even like a quality or like, oh, I just didn't like it. It's like I was just doing other stuff. My mind was elsewhere.
But my God, you're rattling off these characters left and right, left and right, and I'm going, who, what, who, you know? And now I know some of this you have written down. You got crib notes, whatever the stuff.
Yeah.
But you seem to be really immersed in this world, and yet you and some other content creators, I feel your consternation, you know, and you know, at my distance from it and from the X-Men phenomena, you know, I'm asking myself, is there anything Marvel could do that would actually satisfy you? It just seems like you guys just enjoy kicking Marvel in the balls over the X-Men. You know?
Well, the thing was, up until about a couple of years ago, I was all in. I mean, I'm still mostly in, but like, I loved almost everything they were doing with X-Men for a while. There were some things obviously I didn't like. This was like so I came back to X-Men. Matthew Rosenberg was on X-Men right before Hickman. I was reading that leading up to the Hickman stuff. And then after Hickman left, I hung around because I actually genuinely enjoyed what everybody else was bringing to the table as well. But I think the issue was, when the writing was on the wall that the Krakoan era was going to come to an end. And I've gotten confirmation on this. My running gag with the fall of X was that it was almost like you got the eviction notice. Like everybody who worked on the Krakoan era, they got the eviction notice. And they're like, hey, you got to wrap this shit up. You have 24 hours to get the hell out of this apartment. And like, basically everybody's moving boxes like, man, okay, well, no, wait, we can't forget the silverware. No, fuck the silverware. Just go. We got to get in the truck. We got 5 minutes. We got to get out of here. We got to get. And I was talking to some people, and my co-host Carter was talking to some people, and we've all gotten pretty similar stories from people who worked on those books that it was like, yeah, basically, we were told to wrap this shit up, and like yes, and you know, some people said so much that they were like, hey, we were supposed to have this many issues or have this many pages in the final issue, but that stuff was cut, and we just kind of had to like miracle some shit together. And then when they started the new X-Men stuff, the problem was, I'm sure Tom Brevoort is a very nice person. Never met the guy.
He is a very nice person.
Yeah.
I've known him for like 30 years. No, seriously. I'm biased.
Yeah.
I'm a friend of Tom. Tom's a friend of mine. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, we have had interactions like, just online that have been very, positive, but like, he has said some things that it just like he has said some things about
there's
the
no
X-Men
viable black X-Men.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, I was like, and that was kind of why.
Tom.
Yeah, it was like that. I was like, come on. And then there was the whole Cyclops is like Hitler, and I was like, okay, all right.
By the way, when did that happen? See, my understanding of Scott Summers is that Scott Summers was the nerdy kid. He was like me, and he became like the captain of this particular football team, and he had a responsibility to these people. But that Scott was trying to do well, but he was, nervous around girls, and he was kind of
flawed,
and now he's like this jerk. What happened? What did people do?
So basically, the way they're doing this is did
Magneto get him? What happened?
So around the time that Jean Grey was killed off, like for the second time, or
How many
actually,
times
you
are
know
we
what?
gonna kill Gene?
Actually, now I'm thinking about it. It might have been the third, but it was the second. It was the second time. The third time came later.
They really
But
kill him 3 times?
well, like, because they killed her during the Krakoan era too. They were like, "Hey, get her up out of here."
Wow.
Actually, no, they killed her a few times during the Krakoan era because they had resurrection. So she
Okay.
actually died at least 2 or 3 times during the Krakoan era. But there was one time where she died definitively, and then she came back. That's another story. Pocket sand.
got it.
But no, but no, Scott, after like kind of in and around the time that Jean had died and he began a relationship with Emma Frost, that is kind of when you can start tracking the trajectory of Scott Summers going from being like the typical Boy Scout character
Right.
to being more of a revolutionary.
Okay.
And the thing is, he's not normally even like okay. The current crop of writers who are writing Cyclops, I think they have a decent understanding of who he is as a character, but there are some missteps I do find in some of their writing sometimes, just because like I think there's an issue, I forget which one. But there's a point where like he's commanding the team and he's telling them to go do something, and then like Magic is like, "Oh, you're no fun," and he was like, "I was never fun," but he's playing into the gag, he's playing to the gag, or like there's a point where he's telling the guy like, "Hey, you should be glad that these people are my X-Men and not my Brotherhood." Like, he's kind of like he's been there's been issues where he's been quoting like black revolutionaries and all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was like, I was like, you know what? I kind of get it because like he's seen the system fail.
Yeah.
But like he's seen Charles Xavier's dream fail. And I get that part, but the part where they were kind of like where Tom kind of sounded like he wanted to make Cyclops into more of like a villain, I was kind of like, man, I was like, superheroes mysteriously becoming villains.
Now, I want to just interject just a second here. Is that I've worked with Tom maybe off and on for a few decades now. He's never once told me to do something or directed me to do something. We've had discussions about character and stuff like that, but I can't imagine Tom stepping in and going, make Cyclops a jerk or move in this direction or whatever that. I think what Tom wants is he wants to hear the ideas from his creators, and then he gets to. Well, I was going to say he gets to like make a choice, but I don't even know if he gets to make a choice anymore, because now it's I'm sure it's the corporation, it's the studio, it's the algorithm. There's all of these creatures roaming the halls at Marvel, and even Tom, who is like obviously one of the most powerful people at Marvel. I don't even know what that means anymore, given the fact that we are all slaves to the algorithm now.
I mean, I honestly, I can only go by what he puts on his Substack, but like, it was a casual, like, and that's kind of the thing. Like, most of the stuff is stuff that he casually talks about on his Substack. Where does he find the time
to do a Substack? What's that about?
Here's the thing.
To do that. Go ahead.
He is always on Substack. Like, every time I look up, like, okay, every time Tom says some wild shit, it is always on the Substack. Like, it was like the whole thing where he was like kind of when he was talking about the whole no viable black X-Men. That was Substack. The whole Cyclops and Hitler. That was Substack. There was a whole bunch of other stuff he said too that was like, it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not reading this man's Substack anymore, because if I read every post, I would just like, and I was like, and I want people to understand this. I have no personal beef against Tom Brevoort. The man is just a dude who makes comics. Okay. He does not have access to the levers of power. He is not the Wizard of Oz.
He has some access to the levers of power, at least in Marvel.
Right, but he's not like the he's not Lucian Plunder or Hoggish Greedley from Captain Planet. Like I understand who this man is, and I'm like I said, I take your word for it. I'm almost positive that he's a pretty well-to-do guy, because honestly I've never encountered anybody who had anything negative to say about him that was not like a reader who just didn't like what he had to say about something, or didn't like a comic that he was editor over or something like that. But yeah, it's like, if I actually like just read every Substack post he made and then just I I honestly could probably make content for the rest of my life just on Tom. I could make a totally dedicated Tom Brevoort channel because he is always saying some wild shit.
Being the Tom Brevoort, yeah.
Right? But no, I love him. I love him in what he does because honestly, he has an impossible job.
Yeah.
He had to follow the Krakoan era.
Wow.
And honestly, I wouldn't want to follow that shit. So I get it.
All right, so let me get back to my interview with you. So
Yeah.
In light of our discussion, because now we're going to go full circle. In light of our discussion about the algorithm and the reality of being a person of color or a creator of color in this business, something like that. Now I want to address your episode on creating the Black X-Men. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So my question to you is, given the givens, given what we've discussed tonight, okay, even if we have a successful creative idea for Black X-Men, how do we sell it in this market? I mean, the algorithm is probably not going to let this happen. That's what I'm saying.
So here's what you got to do. You have to go outside the normal. Parameters of marketing. I think this is X-Men. Obviously, it's Marvel, so Marvel would have to open themselves up to something that's probably incredibly terrifying to them,
which is
catering to Black spaces. And what I mean by that is go to DreamCon. Like make it like make an announcement at DreamCon.
Do they not go to DreamCon?
God, no. No, they don't. No, they don't. Not to my knowledge. But DreamCon, BlerdCon, go. I think DreamCon would honestly be the better place, just because it has more visibility. But you're gonna have to go to DreamCon. What was it? Janelle Monáe. I
love this guy. Janelle Monáe. I watch him every day. I bow to this guy's erudition, and I'm so jealous. I want to be that guy when I grow up. I mean, wow, he's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Go ahead.
I mean, you have to.
He's a comics fan?
Well, no. This is so Janelle Monáe. The singer, Janelle Monáe.
No, I'm sorry.
Like she had a comic.
Okay,
like she has
I'm confusing. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I confuse him with the political strategy.
No, I wish. But no, Janelle Monáe. She had a comic. I can't remember which con she announced. I can't remember if it was DreamCon or BlerdCon. Yeah, but either way, the thing is, you have to go to places where Black people are going to be able to see what you're talking about. You're going to kind of like, okay, Marvel did this before and they did it so smart, and I don't think they realized how smart they were when they did this. If anyone remembers when the Black Panther movie was, when the trailer for the Black Panther movie came out, most people forget, but I remember they released that trailer during the NBA All-Star game.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Because they knew. They knew Black people would be watching. And I think that Marvel has forgotten how this works. And sometimes they do remember, because I remember people blowing my phone. I'm like, dude, is there some new Blade movie coming out? And I was like, well, there's the one that's been in development hell for a long time. But no. They announced some new movie. It's called Blood Hunt. And I would have to be like, oh... You saw the ads on Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. I was like, that's not a movie. That's a crossover event that stars Blade. I was like, that's not a movie. And see, and that's kind of my point. Marvel knows how to do it. They just pick and choose when they want to. So what I would do is I would do all of those things. I would create a trailer for the comic. I would make announcements at BlerdCon and DreamCon. I would release commercials during NBA All-Star games, during like the, if the Super Bowl is, or like any major, playoff games or anything. I would release that stuff around then. Reach out to the places where you have a captive Black audience, because I think the thing that people don't realize is not to say black people don't keep up with comic book news, but they don't keep up with comic book news in the same way they might keep up with other shit.
Sure.
So like, like I know so many people, who didn't know that there was a Blade comic a couple of years ago, or that there was a Green Lantern War Journal series that was out just this past year. There were some people who didn't even know there was a Black Lightning and a Mr. Terrific book last year. So I was like, what you have to do is you have to hit all of those those pressure points, but you also, and I'm not saying this for my own enrichment, but you have to reach out to not just black content creators,
but it can't hurt.
It can't hurt. It definitely won't hurt, but you do need to reach out to all comic creators, like people have reach, and be like, hey, here's the first issue of this book. And it's like, read it. If you want to talk about, feel free to talk about it on the channel. Make posts about it. Here's some promo images. So if you want to show a little something, we'll curate those so we don't give anything away. Maybe cater to those people a little bit. Because the thing is, I've seen it happen. Yeah. I don't like to take personal responsibility for this, but I feel at least partially responsible for why the Thundercat series did really well to start. Because I was like the only person on comic book YouTube who was even talking about it on any major level. And in some books like that, like Dakota Incident, another one that a lot of content creators were talking about. Yeah. So I think what you need to be in a full court press. And I don't know if it'll change anything, but it for damn sure wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so you're talking about them doing outreach to the black community. What I'm talking about is, how do you sell black X-Men to the audience that Marvel has access to? How do we get predominantly white male audience to pick this book up?
So this is what you got to do. You're going to have friendly faces. And that's just, it's a fact. It's like, for as much as I would love to focus newer characters,
the black X-Men take Cyclops hostage.
So this is what you do. You bring this is how you unite the people. Let's say we lean into what Tom Brevoort is cooking, and we make Cyclops the bad guy. We bring in Wolverine. He's just around. He's just going to be there. We put him on the cover to sell some books. Because people, because I know how people think. They see Wolverine on the cover, they're going to buy the book. Yeah, this is how it is.
Really? Still, he's that popular.
He is that fucking popular. I do not understand it. I do not get it. Because he's not my least favorite character, but he's the character I find not terribly interesting.
But you got to write him well, and I'm not.
You have to write him well.
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm not that guy. But if you got a lame Wolverine inside the book, it's so disappointing. And Wolverine is a really intensely special guy. But go ahead.
No, he has to be cool.
Sell this book to the mainstream audience, because that's where you get your numbers, and when you get strong numbers, that's how you get them to try other things like that. That's all.
Right. You have to. So you got to bring in familiar faces, and those familiar faces, you're gonna have to bring in Wolverine, even if he's just like he's just there. He's not really like super there, but he's there. He's present. He's at least doing something. But you got to have, you're going to have Storm and Bishop, because those are going to be the two black characters that pretty much every white person knows. Every white woman knows Storm. Every white man knows Bishop. So that's one of those. That's like guaranteed money in the bank right there. And then you can tell the story with. You kind of have to play a little, kind of like you were saying earlier. You got to hide the medicine. You got to hide the
right.
You gotta hide the medicine. So we're gonna
put up in the oatmeal, yes.
Right. You can put all of and I'm a firm believer. I heard this once somewhere, and I'm a firm believer in it, that when you have like 5 to 7 X-Men characters on a team, that's kind of like a sweet spot number for characters. So you can have Storm and Bishop as those two. Have the 5 others be like other different characters, whatever. But you're gonna present the story almost as if it's more about Storm and Bishop, but you're going to hide the medicine in these new characters because these new characters are going to be there. They're going to be present. People are going to see them. They're going to adjust to them. They're going to get used to them. You're going to write them very well. You're not going to like be like, oh, hey, here's this one character and his whole personality is that he's black. It's like, no, his personality is that, well, yes, he is we have a black character, but this is a character who, I don't know, let's say was a former leader of Generation X and a former leader of the X-Men, and he feels like he has something to prove because everything went to shit when he became leader of the team, and he has to get his get back. So that's a redemption arc story right there. You can say, okay, well, how about we bring in let's bring in another character. Let's bring in that's Sync, if nobody could tell what I was talking about. Yeah. You bring in a Frenzy. She's like, hey, look, this is a character that she's always been around, but people probably vaguely know who she is, but maybe we can make her a household name if we actually like put her up front, let her do a little something. Maybe let's focus on her. Yeah, this is where you can bring Cyclops into the store. We can maybe focus on her weird relationship with Cyclops and the relationship that she had in an alternate reality that turned out that she's the only one who remembers it, and that's it. You can focus on that and how she gets past that, and it's not just big brawny angry black woman. We subvert that stereotype right there. That's too right there, just right off the bat. And you can take other characters and like I said, you can make them special and important. But the thing is, you can't tell the story like it's just a black book.
Yes,
you're going to have to
one segment of the audience.
Right. Like honestly, you're going to have to dip your toe in some places. You're going to have to, like case in point, you're going to have to talk about issues or focus on storylines that are universal. Like case in point, like you were asking earlier about like why people love the X-Men. It's because I think deep down, everyone kind of feels like an outsider to some degree. Yeah. Whether it's because of like their race, their sexuality, their gender, or
it's why we read comics. It's why we read fantasy novels or play video games.
Right. It's a difference.
With Storm though, I go, well, and don't take me there because you're going to make my head hurt. But apparently they've amped her up and she's this Omega thing now. And I'm going, okay, I think the scale is too big in my opinion. But let's just play our game for a second.
Yeah.
How about a story where she loses her powers?
I mean,
wait for me.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
That's not the story. She loses her powers.
Okay.
And she's had her powers since she was, puberty or whatever. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know what to do with herself, or whatever. And she gets dumped into, some hood somewhere, for whatever reason. There's something going on, and the regular people in the hood don't accept her because to them, she's not really black. Because she's African. You understand?
Right.
Okay, so when you have people from the islands or you have, people from Africa, whatever like that, there is an intra-cultural racism that is interesting to explore between that and American blacks, because we are to some degree we are seen as mongrels by some of these people that we're not whatever, or we look at them as being the other. Storm with that accent and the way she talks, she has this imperial sort of manner about her. But now she's just another chick on the block, right? Mm-hmm. Like that would be kind of interesting to explore. Where now we are leading the broader audience through the black experience, through this sort of here's this area of the black experience that you may not even realize exists. That within black culture there is intracultural racism that we're not necessarily proud of.
Oh, you had me right there because I was literally just going off about FBAs and
no, help me with that. Wait,
so that's
I'm old.
Foundational Black Americans. It's a subsector of Black people who they're not terribly fond of black immigrants.
Somalians.
Yeah, Haitians, anything. Yeah. That's why I made the joke earlier.
I was married to a Haitian. Be nice to Haitians.
Oh, no. I love Haitian culture. I love all my black brothers, sisters, and MDs. But when you made that comment earlier, you said people were telling you weren't black, and I made the joke about where your grandmother from. That's why I said it, because with FBAs, because they did it to me. They did it to me once because I said something they didn't like. So like, where's your grandma from? That's their way of basically trying to be like, oh, wait, are you a child of black immigrants? Because if you're a child of a black immigrant, then you're not really black. And I was thinking, I think there's a story there to be told, because I think you could tell it one of a couple of ways. And I don't like giving Marvel ideas for free, but I'm gonna tell you what. I'll give him.
But we're just having fun here.
Yeah. I mean, look. First off, I know for a fact Tom is never gonna call me. But
call him.
No, he's never gonna call. And honestly, you know what? I understand why. But no. I'll give this one away. This is how I would. There's two ways you could do it, and I think either one could really work. You could have a kind of an FBA style sector of mutants. Who
that's interesting.
Like, they're like, hey, wait a minute. You run with the or you can say, okay.
We're actual mutants.
We're actual mutants. Yeah, we're the real mutants. And you know what? Since you don't have any powers, you don't get to rock with us. But Storm still has to navigate in that same, like regardless of what they think, Storm still has to navigate that space. Yeah. And you know what? I'll take you a step further. So you know how we were talking about bringing in these other characters? I think that's how you can have Storm on the team, but not have Storm overshadow the other characters. I think what you do is when Storm, as you being powerless in this moment, use this as an opportunity to have Storm act in such a way where she is the Professor X that Professor X could never hope to be. Like, she is going to be like she's going to be the she's going to be the leader, the mentor, the woman who is like kind of like the same way the Cyclops looks to Charles Xavier as like a father. Like, the people on the team, they would look to Storm like she is their mother. Like the same way that Kitty Pryde a lot of the time would look at Storm as like a motherly figure. But like in this particular instance, it's going to be in a situation where Storm is going through her own stresses and things of that nature. And I would even take it a step further that, where I wouldn't want to depower both characters, but I would want Bishop to have something going on with him to kind of like be the reason why he's not fully in, like he's there, but he's not fully involved. Like he's not, because if you have those characters, there are people like, oh, well, the Storm just come in and she's just gonna like, and then everybody's dead. You can't do that. You want these other characters. It's why I think that I am uniquely equipped to do shit like this, because I have the mind of a wrestling booker. I'm always thinking about, okay, how do we get heat on the heel and how do we get sympathy on the baby face? How do we gotta have the heel. How many times can we let the heel get over on the baby face before the baby face gets justice? That's
so this is a time-tested theme, is are my powers all that I am? That's the thing here, and then taking it a step further, if you take her powers away, does the other team members' respect for her begin to crumble at some point, because she no longer has the powers? It's an interesting premise, and there's probably many others that can be explored. But the point I'm trying to make is, now we've moved beyond the color of the character's skin, and we have an interesting story that would appeal broadly to everybody. See what I mean?
Right. It's not
so
just
we just played our game.
And the thing is, and I want people to understand this.
Do it though, but
look, and I want people to understand, like, there are so many ways to do it, and I know Storm has been depowered before, but the thing is, she has been depowered before, but the thing is, but here's the difference.
There's nothing that hasn't been done before with these characters. Good
So
Lord, who would ever want to step into this universe? I'm sorry, go ahead.
so the funny thing about when she was depowered before, it was when she became leader of it was like around the time she became leader of the X-Men, but
Wow.
the difference was is that Storm was still on the front lines. Like she was still going out and like fighting
He's
amongst
jumping out of the plane with everybody else.
yeah, like she was
Okay.
still like she was this is like she was still doing stuff. But the
Okay.
thing is like they stretched that storyline over the course of some years and she got her powers back eventually and everything was back to normal. But the thing is I want to use it as a way to just like not so much to be like, hey, here's this thing that you've never seen, but here's a thing you've seen before, but it's going to be done very different. It's not going to be and it's not going to be this thing where we like we spread it out over like so much time. It's like no, it's gonna be a launching point to kind of get from a point A to a point B. But at the same time, we like I said, you don't like if you have a comic and it's Spider-Man and then some random other character. Spider-Man is going to overshadow that other character every time.
That's
People are
true.
going to be talking about Spider-Man. Same thing goes with Batman. Whenever Batman's around, Batman overshadows everybody else. I don't care who it is. Maybe except for Superman. And even then, Batman kind of overshadows Superman sometimes. Just in terms of like fan popularity or whatever.
Right.
But like, I think what you need to do is you need to like have those characters present. Because when people see it, because like I said, I watched this documentary once. Actually, there's two different documentaries, but they were both about X-Men in some capacity or another. One was about women in comics, but the other one was about the X-Men. Chris Claremont's run specifically. And in both instances, do you know the character that came up the most when people were talking, whenever the conversation came to the X-Men and they were talking to both men and women who were reading comics back then, it was always Storm.
Really?
Storm was the character, especially among women, white women especially. They all were like, "Ooh, Storm! She was so fabulous. Her hair and how she carried herself, and she was just so powerful." Like it was. The thing is, white audiences they fucking love Storm.
Wow.
They love Storm. I think they love Storm almost as much as black people love Storm.
Wow.
But the thing is, you have to have recognizable faces, you have to have recognizable scenarios, and you have to have someone on the book who understands the assignment. They have to understand that this is going to be an important story. You have to be ready to meet the moment and be ready to provide a story that is going to speak to multiple people. It can Now you definitely want to make sure that and when I say speak to multiple people, I mean you still want to be looking dead in the eyes of black people, but
Sure.
you also want to be looking in such a way that you're not leaving anyone else out. It's why I always say when you tackle stories from like a class issue or perspective, or from like a personality perspective, or like you're talking about I guess what's the term, kitchen table issues, like you're bringing that into the fold, like you're going to be talking about things. It does not matter what the color of the skin of the person is,
Right.
that's the main character. Somebody is going to be able to relate. Everybody can relate to being unsure of themselves,
Right.
to feeling like they're not enough,
Right.
or to feeling like they were so close to achieving something and they tripped at the last second, or they have this thing that like they want to get the girl, or they want to get the boy, or whoever. Everybody can relate to stuff like that. And if you can, it doesn't have to be that simple, but if you can stick to at least some modicum of that, I feel like you have a good story.
And I think that if you take that approach, Ernie, that's how you make black characters viable, because
Yes.
you suddenly now you have like this story that just works regardless of the skin. It's like I would tell people like the Dark Knight, the Christopher Nolan film. I said, that film works without the costumes. Take the costumes away,
Right. Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. No. That's a perfect like the Dark Knight, and I think Captain America: The Winter Soldier. If you remove the serial numbers, they can be any movie.
It's like it transcends the genre.
Right.
And I think if you write a story, the way to get what you're looking for, at least I think what you're looking for, Ernie, is that you write a story that transcends the skin color to the point where we stop even noticing the skin color because the story is that compelling. and that's when the publishers will start to see the numbers, and the algorithm will have to give it up,
Right.
and go, okay, well, now we're listening to these pitches for more black characters. The doors of the church are open.
Yeah.
We no.
I mean,
Like
look.
we're right at the end of our sermon, and the doors of the church are open, and so forth, But yeah, anyway,
Let's take a collection.
I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that, because you rant so much about the friggin' X-Men, and it spiked my curiosity. To go, what's he talking about? So I'm looking into X-Men. I'm looking at other videos and other content creators, and I'm going, holy smokes! It's making my head hurt, that kind of thing. But you seem to be a diehard fan who is going to stick with the franchise, come hell or high water, and you're gonna ride this thing out, baby, and more power to you. I was just curious about, and maybe the day will come when I will need, like, someone to actually explain in detail. Not now, explain in detail what the hell is going on in the X-Men. But all I noticed is that Scott's is a weird guy now, and Storm is like a goddess, and then there's all these people in X-Men United that I've never seen before running around, and I'm going, okay.
Gambit's a cannibal. Gambit is a cannibal now.
No.
Yeah, he has an eye of Agamotto that is influencing his dark urges.
What was Doctor Strange? He took it from Doctor Strange?
Oh no, this is another eye of Agamotto that comes from somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many. But there's also
does he barbecue the people before he eats them? Or?
No,
He's from the French Quarter,
I mean, he's trying to not do it. Like, so far, he's kind of like he's in the no, stay away from me phase, and
okay,
and what was the other one?
Kind of like Rogue, it's like I don't want to kill you, yeah.
And Rogue, she was having issues with elocution, but she has accepted her Southern ways, so she is good now.
Well, good for her. Okay.
I love a Southern belle who just accepts. like if you're gonna be country as a chicken coop, be country as a chicken coop. Don't try and change that shit. That's who you are.
That's my family. Yeah, they're all from the country. Yeah.
Well, I'm raised in the South, so I mean, I got some. I got some good country ass relatives. Like, I'm talking like Beverly Hillbillies type shit. But no, there's a lot of and that's the other thing. Beast is the most interesting one right now, because it's not the Beast who has been around for the last it's
Hank
not
McCoy?
Well, no, it's Hank. But yeah, this is gonna blow your mind.
Oh God.
So during the Krakoan era, Beast lost his whole mind. He was like experimenting on people and like cloning Wolverine without his knowledge and treating him like an attack dog. And he basically turned into a whole supervillain. Okay. He had like dozens of clones of himself, and he created a council of Hanks, basically. And he became such an irredeemable villain that they killed him off.
Wow.
Quotey Fingers killed him off. He's not dead. But he had a clone that he created that had the memories from back in the 80s when he was on the Defenders.
Oh, okay.
This is a clone that has no knowledge of anything Hank has done
past the Defenders.
Past like 86.
Okay.
Past 1986.
Got it.
So the evil Beast dies, Quotey Fingers dies. The older Beast comes back, and he's learning all this crazy stuff that happened that he's responsible for. He doesn't have half the knowledge or the accolades that the other Beast did, because he never did any of this stuff. So he's kind of like, I don't know how to cure the legacy virus. I wasn't here. Yeah. So you have all that, but then there's this like where people treat him kind of differently, because like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, you're not that Beast. And now the Beast that died has come back, but he's not in this, like he's in I guess he's in some kind of a clone body that is more human.
Okay.
And now he's the current villain of the X-Men comics. So that is a thing that is happening. And if you were not reading the Krakoan era, you'd have no fucking clue what the hell's going on. There, you know how they put those little editorial notes, those little notes, like, go read so and so. The footnotes, go read so and so. No. You're gonna have to just go back and read all that shit.
All of it.
You have to go back and read all that shit because you will not know.
On the buses and start again.
Yeah, you're gonna have to you have to do like I do. Go like all this X shit I got up here. You're gonna need all of that because nothing I said is gonna make as much sense until you actually read it for yourself. But no, that said, I really appreciate that you have done the things that you have done, and been in the game as long as you had, and honestly, you paved the way for a lot of people. Whether I feel people recognize that, but I maybe not as much as I would have liked. But you've done a great deal of stuff, and I don't have a hat, but I'm a tip the imaginary hat to you.
Well, I appreciate it.
And I'm just gonna say, anyone that is still here, please go buy Vampirella.
We got Vampirella #1. That's FOCs today. That's coming out in April.
April 22nd.
Yeah, don't ask me. I never know these things. Superman, Spider-Man out now. I'm in there.
Yes.
Okay. Black Panther's 60th anniversary. That's out now. I'm in there somewhere. The World to Come issues 1 to 5 are out. It's a forget me. Buy it for the artwork. It's Joe Quesada losing his mind. Please buy that. It's unbelievable good stuff there. Issue 6 is going to blow your mind. It won't be out until like late May, early June. But when it comes out, it's out of here. He's doing amazing stuff there. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can't talk about because they haven't. The Last Spartan. Which I think you have to go to thelastspartan.com. It's a graphic novel that I did with the actor Tyler Mane, who plays Sabretooth.
Yeah, you know what? So it's funny too because I remember someone from the team, from the marketing team, reached out to me about it, but I never heard back from them after I responded. But that is definitely something I'm very curious about because what I saw of it, it looked really good. So
well, I will send you a PDF. But the LastSpartan.com, that's where the book is currently there. But it's a wonderful graphic novel that deals with human trafficking.
Yes.
And a portion of the proceeds goes to a nonprofit called the Deliver Fund that helps to track people who have disappeared and help bring them home. So it's an important important piece of work there. And then beyond that, there's a bunch of stuff that, as I said, I can't tell you because it hasn't been announced. And probably I've pissed off Marvel and DC and Dynamite tonight, so they're all going to fire me anyway.
Nick. Well, I know Nick's not going to fire you. Nick
I run my mouth too much. I'm like, but I'm just trying to keep it real, or at least keep it as real as I can keep it without losing my job.
Well, no. I think you did a fantastic job. I don't think you said anything that was that. I don't think you should be fired, but I
yes,
now
fire Priest. Yes,
yeah. That's the new hashtag, y'all. We're just that is the new hashtag. But no, I do real quick. I just want to share this with you because Merlin, the commenter, wanted to share this. Said Ernie slowly turning Priest insane like us with some of this cursed knowledge. Tell him they go to school in the brain. Talking about X-Men United. Thank you for that super chat.
I saw that. The danger room is like in their heads now or something.
Yeah, like the whole school.
Whole school is in
it's
your
all
head.
up here. It's all up here. It's actually it's funny because it's actually an idea that was done during Krakoa, but they repurposed it because they didn't really use it. They were using the astral plane to do all this stuff, but now it's all up in the brain noggin.
I celebrate anybody who can just make their way through all of that and make some sense out of it. God bless Gail. God bless whoever else.
Oh yeah, Eve. Eve L. Ewing is the one that's on that one, and it's Yeah, I mean, and by the way,
More strength
Cyclops.
to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, and Cyclops has burned the building down.
What's wrong with you people?
The school,
you're such a nice boy.
the school, yeah, like the actual real school always got bulldozed every like 6 months.
Yeah.
The new school hasn't even, it's grand opening, grand closing. So there you go. But no.
Well, remember every time, in the old days, every time they went up in a plane, the plane crashed. They had to bail out. I think Chris had Wolverine actually say, "Why is it every time we take a flight, we end up bailing out of the plane?" So.
And yet somehow, statistically, it's still the safest way to travel.
Well, it's nice that in all seriousness that again Claremont and Byrne and and all those people have created this wonderful thing that both entertains us and infuriates us at the same time. That decades later we're still talking about it. Think about that.
I mean,
awesome.
there's something to be said for that kind of longevity, and I'll leave everybody with this. There are links in the description of this video that you need to go click. Go click on them. There's a preview for Vampirella #1. There is more links to Christopher's other works. Highly recommend you go check out the Quantum and Woody stuff. Some of my favorite stuff that you've done.
Thank you.
And also shout out to the late MD Bright on that one.
And MD Bright has a graphic novel coming out from Boom called The Center Holes, written by Larry Hama, of all people.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
I don't know what the date of that is, but it's coming out pretty soon. Yeah.
Well, I will find that, and I'm gonna put it in the and we're gonna put that in the description for this too. So
the Center Holes. It's Doc's last work. It's gorgeous.
Oh, that is insane! Yeah. Oh my god! So yeah, please go do that because oh my god, that was he was an absolute just. The few artists in this world had me like in the hooks. MD Bright. I'm sorry, it's I'll take the Pepsi challenge with everybody else's stuff.
For the Transformers fans out there who don't read Vampirella or X-Men, don't care about, but the Transformers people out there, that iconic cover of Shockwave, and it says the Transformers, and he's
all dead.
That's Mark Bright. That's him.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah,
that was him. He.
Completely underappreciated artist,
yes,
and a better painter than he's an amazing painter. He worked for I forgot, was it Pocket Books or one of those book companies. He was doing covers for science fiction novels for years, and he does this wonderful acrylic. I'd go over his house. He'd have all these canvases lying on the floor. They're just over in the corner somewhere, and that Transformers thing was over in the corner somewhere, and I think he sold it for like a nickel to somebody. I was like, Mark, what did you do? He didn't know. He had no idea that it was going to take off like this and become so iconic.
Honestly, you know what? Honestly, it speaks to his character more than it does anything else. So you know what? That actually just makes me appreciate it even more. Because I'm like, you know what? He's one of the good ones. He's one of the good ones. He was too good for us. He was too good for us. That's what that was. He was too good for us. We didn't deserve him. We did not deserve him. But no, I want all y'all to go check that stuff out. And also, if I'm not mistaken, you have the trade for Sonya Reborn is fast approaching. I think it's in the next.
That's coming out. For the Sonya purists who
2 or 3 months.
Sonya purists who hate it because they think I was mocking their character, and they're probably right. I was doing a little mocking of their character. And then of course,
grow up.
Superman. What was it? Superman.
Superman Lost. Yeah, we got that.
Trade is out there somewhere.
Yes.
And, it's a lot of fun. If you missed it, it's a lot of fun, and I'm desperately proud of that work. So pick that up if you haven't seen it.
Well, we're gonna have all that stuff in the description. Go check it out, please. And
Okay,
and
because we'll be on the
yeah,
joke reel with Dan. Yeah.
well, yeah. Let me. You know what? Y'all go buy if you want to. I don't care. Yeah.
Well, he shacks up. He shacks up with a female Green Lantern, and then she pops up on Earth pregnant. And
Yeah.
the bosses at DC lost their mind because my editor forgot to tell the bosses what the plot was or how this gets explained at the end. But she shows up as a cliffhanger at the end of one of these issues, and she pops up, and Lois looks out the window and goes, "I'll bet that's your friend from outer space," and she's there with the big belly.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, the phones are ringing, and my editor's getting called on the carpet, and she's like, "Hamana." Anyway, Superman Lost. It's a fun read. It's out there somewhere.
Well, everybody, thank you all for showing up, and we will see you all another time. We out of here.
Thanks for having me.
Peace out.